Let's go, friends. Hey, welcome in. It's Monday night. Welcome to the start of the week. We're on two godless engineers tonight. Hope maybe, if we're lucky, we'll get some good, like linear, good faith, even scientific sounding debates tonight from people who believe in God, maybe have scientific evidence, or maybe a rational argument, or maybe empirical evidence that could lead us to a God. We're certainly open to hearing about whatever God concept that you want. And John and I both have spent some time in the church. I know John's experience coming out of the church was pretty quick. Mine was, I was stubborn. I was like a lot of the callers. It took me a while to come to grips with reality. But we understand the experience. We know that a lot of the people that are going to call in, they're deep in the religion. It might sound absurd to you that atheists even exist, especially because the Bible says that only a fool says there's no God. But we're more than happy to take your calls. And heck, maybe by the end of the day, maybe you can convert John, myself, or even part of the audience. So, John, welcome in. How's your week been, buddy?
It's been really crazy. I spent the week in the Caribbean, and so now I've got a little bit of a head cold. But yeah, I was on a cruise. So out of Central Florida, there's a Central Florida Free Thought group, and they do a conference every other year. And then in between the conferences, they do a cruise early in the year. And so we were on that cruise. We left out of Miami and we went down along the Central American coastline to like Belize, Honduras, and other places. And so it was pretty fun. I actually got to learn how to home make tortilla things. I want to say
Nice.
patties. They're not patties, but they're like homemade tortilla stuff from corn. And so it was pretty awesome.
Speaking of conferences, there's one coming up in this fall, a new one, Rocket City, right?
Yes, Rocket City Reason. And it's going to be super special because we do have a live line show planned after the conference on Saturday. If you want to check that out, it's rocketcityreason.com. I'm going to be getting a featured guest list up there. We've had a little bit of a shakeup to our lineup here recently. We've added Volsi as one of the MCs from over there on TikTok. And then we've also added Sarah from Leave in Faith.
That's awesome. I heard about that recently, and Volsi, and two amazing additions. So that should be really nice. Definitely marking on the calendar. I've got it marked on mine. I'm planning on being there, unless the river rises above the threshold to drown the farm. I should be there, but
Okay.
it should be exciting. And the weather should be pretty decent down there about that time of year as well, right?
Oh yes, it's really nice around that time of year. It doesn't get start to get really all that cold until like January, and even then you'll have like maybe a few days, which it was really crazy. So while I was on the Caribbean cruise, we had tornadoes on Sunday night, like the last Sunday, right? Where there was tornadoes around here and everything. No shit, that Monday it was snowing. So it's like it's a little bit crazy.
Well, we have one caller in queue. We'll get to the caller momentarily. If you want to call in, the number is 720-619-2288. We'd love to hear from you. There is a web link in the description of the video. I believe the web link is for people outside of the USA, though, if I am understanding this correctly. Nevertheless, now is a great time to get into the call queue. As I say during a lot of these live streams, you might be reluctant to be one of the first few callers, but if you wait towards the end of the live stream to call in, we might not be able to get to you. So if you want to get in the queue and actually get got before we have to end the live stream, now's a great time to call in and get yourself in the queue. We try to get to everybody that's in the queue. We're not going to purposely bypass somebody in the queue. But if you want to make sure you get in, now is the time to get in. And first in line looks like Chris, who is an atheist from New York. Got a question for yours truly, it looks like. Answering a friend's assertion that Jesus fulfilled prophecy. I think John and I can probably both talk to this topic because this is a pretty familiar topic. But welcome in, Chris. You're on the line with Justin and Godless Engineer. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Pleasure to speak with you guys.
Awesome. Good to have you,
Chris.
bud.
So I love listening to your content, Justin, when you are discussing the biblical prophecies, and you go into so much detail into the original language, what was meant by it. And whenever you frequently go and say that Jesus didn't fulfill a single messianic prophecy. But then when you start discussing it with theists, I usually only hear you discussing it with respect to things that aren't actually prophecies. And I'm trying to do my own research to try to find what are the actual prophecies of the Messiah in the Old Testament. Because whenever I go doing Google searches, they always pop up with those non-prophecy prophecies, if you catch my meaning.
Right. Yep.
And so I'm just wondering if there's a good source, or if you know of a good video that goes into detail what the actual prophecies are and the reasons why Jesus didn't fulfill them.
So I think one of the reasons why this is one of the questions that a lot of people have a hard time finding answers to is because if you ask a typical, like a Jewish person, they don't have like a list of definitive requirements, at least not a long list of definitive requirements for the Messiah, because not all of them really even believe in like a singular Messiah. In Judaism, there's multiple Messiah concepts. Some people believe like King David will come back. Some people believe there will be a Messiah who wins the final battle, like from Zechariah. Some people believe there will be two Messiahs. That was popular among the Dead Sea Scrolls. But you can also find in the Dead Sea community, there's a four Messiah theory. So there seems to be not like an actual consensus among the Hebrew people about what is a messianic prophecy. However, there are a couple that you might want to look at. Jeremiah 37, verse 24 to the end is clearly messianic. Ezekiel 37, 24 to the end is messianic. Jeremiah 33, verses 14 to 19 is clearly messianic. These are specifically talking about somebody from the line of David who is going to come and be a king that reigns forever, or at least institutes a kingship that lasts forever. So those are definitely two of the most popular. Also, I would turn to Isaiah chapter 2, Isaiah chapter 11, Micah chapter 4, and Micah chapter 5. These are all actual like messianic passages according to the Hebrew Bible. And then the other thing you want to look at is not just about the Messiah specifically, but like what happens during the messianic age, like what is accompanied with the messianic age. And I would say the most vivid example comes from Ezekiel chapter 40 to the end of Ezekiel. It describes this messianic age where there's a physical temple, and the Prince Messiah is doing sacrifices and offerings in the temple again. And then you might also look at some latter parts of Deutero-Isaiah where it describes the land completely restored. It says in Isaiah 60 that all the nations will serve Israel, and the nations who refuse to serve Israel will be wiped out. And it talks about in Isaiah 65 and 66, the new Jerusalem and the renewed heaven, renewed earth, where everybody will be in some sort of harmonious state again. And so I would point to those passages and say there's probably only four main requirements that all Jews typically agree on. Messiah is going to be a king. There's going to be world peace. Israel is going to be dwelling with God in the land like he actually intended. And the law of Moses is going to be reinstituted and will cover the whole earth. So those are kind of the things I would point to. John, anything on your mind on this topic?
Yeah, so I've looked into, because I always want to know what they claim are prophecies, just so that I can not be surprised by anything. And there's a lot of different resources out there. The one that I typically go to, and I should really develop a sort of a database for this, because it's something that they use regularly. I say they, I mean like apologists, but they actually claim that there's 356 separate fulfilled prophecies, and there's lists of them out there. Now this isn't 356 like verses that are supposed prophecies, because there's many of these verses that supposedly have multiple prophecies in them. Like the very first part of the list here, and it's got Genesis 3:15, and it's got three different supposed prophecies contained in that one verse. The virgin giving birth is supposedly one. Bruising Satan's head is another. Christ's heel will be bruised with nails on the cross are the three that it says for this one passage. And I mean, it's very easy to see how crazy it is that, and how many strings they have to pull in order to make it fit the prophecy, because you can't really make it connect like what Genesis 3:15 says versus what they say is fulfilled prophecy in the New Testament. So, but like I typically go to this website called accordingtothescriptures.org. It's got a thing there that says 353 prophecies, but it lists 356. Don't ask me why, they're dipshits. But yeah, that's like a pretty full and complete list of what they consider to be prophecies. But definitely take like the actual prophecies into account, what Justin just listed. But it's helpful to know both sides of that. What they claim are prophecies versus what actually are prophecies, and you'll see how much they bloat, their side of it.
That's a good resource that I'll have to check out.
Yeah. One thing that you may want to look at is Jews for Judaism. They're a resource that does counter-apologetics, so that's certainly one place to look. They do a little bit of work on that particular topic, only because they're in dialogue with Christians, or rather apologists, for Christianity. So they're the ones that are saying, hey, actually, this is what the Messiah is supposed to do. But other than the Jews for Judaism organization, I don't know many organizations that are spending a lot of time on this, maybe other than Chabad. But that's a whole nother, they're like, I'm not going to say they're a cult of Judaism. They're a perfectly valid form of Judaism, but they kind of have their own unique view on Messiah. So we're not going to worry about them tonight. But if you're searching through Jewish sources on the Messiah and you hear anything about Menachem Mendel Schneerson or the Rebbe, just know that that's not really a widely held view in Judaism. But hopefully that helps.
Oh, it's going to be very helpful for answering, and I'll see if I can also get my friend to call in eventually. But they're a little hesitant. But
I get it.
No, you give me a lot of good information and resources that I'll have to go and check out.
Okay. Good luck, Chris. Let us know if you need help.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Make sure you tell them that we're really nice. We're nice to talk to. We're easygoing. We don't bite people's heads off unless you start to feel, bro. Like that's the only way that's going to happen.
I do, and it's something like Matt frequently goes and says that usually don't become hostile until they started or they start being dishonest. So as long as they have come in with an honest, open dialogue, then the calls usually go very well.
Right.
Yep.
All right,
best
thank
luck
you
to
so
you,
much
buddy.
for your time.
Cheers. All right. We do have one believer in queue. We'll get to Dylan here in just a second. If you want to call in and talk about your God, it doesn't have to be the Christian God. I think, here in the Western world, that's what we talk about the most. But you're more than welcome to call about Allah or Muhammad or Shiva or Vishnu or whatever form of God you've got. We'd love to hear about it. The number is 720-619-2288. And even if you have if you got a syllogism that you think proves God or some sort of scientific evidence, we're certainly happy to hear it. John and I both have, I want to say, science adjacent backgrounds. We're both engineers. We're not physicists. There's going to be some limitations there, but we're more than happy to talk about scientific evidence for God if you think that might be helpful in the inquiry. But we'll bring in Dylan from Minnesota. Welcome in, Dylan. You're on the line with Justin and John. How you doing?
Hey, do you guys believe that humans are just no bigger than animals?
What?
Bigger or important?
As in above animals.
We are animals.
Yeah, that was my thought.
We're part
Whoa,
of
whoa.
of the kingdom. Hold on. When you say animals, I'm confused because we're part of the kingdom Animalia. So what do you mean by animals?
I'm human.
Right. Homo sapiens are part of the kingdom Animalia. So I don't know what you mean.
I'm a person, not a human. You're saying you're an animal? I'm a person.
Wait a second.
You're not a human?
How are you differentiating that? How are you differentiating person and human? I don't what the fuck is this call?
I'm a human, like a person, like I'm not an animal, but a human.
A Homo sapien. You're a Homo sapien. That's your species name. That's all of our species name. You're not anything different. You're not a super special boy.
Wait. So you believe that, like, I'm not a human, like, person, not a, like, someone that has a spirit and
You
a soul
are
and
a
a body?
human. Hold on. Human, person, Homo sapien. Those are all the same. The different words to classify the same animal, which is Homo sapiens. Like that. It's all the same. It's all describing the same thing.
I'm a human, not an animal.
How are you differentiating between animals and humans? Yeah, I feel the same way.
Humans have a human.
Did he do all that just to quote the Elephant Man? Is he trolling?
I don't know.
Humans are made in the image of God. Animals are not.
Well, men are, not women, according to 1 Corinthians 11.
He created them male and female, so God created man and woman in the image of God.
Oh no, John, he's never read 1 Corinthians 11. Oh no. Should we read it for him?
I mean, sure.
Yeah. Not to derail. In fact, I've already derailed. But it says in 1 Corinthians 11 that man was made in the image of God and woman was made in the image of man. In fact, it says a man ought not to have his head veiled, since he is the image and the reflection of God, but woman is the reflection of man. Was Paul wrong?
Correct. Correct.
Oh, cool. All right, carry on then. Paul was wrong. John, what were you saying?
No. As in, Paul is correct.
Oh, Paul is correct. So are you saying that it works by the transitive property, that because woman was made in the image of man and man is made in the image of God, therefore woman is made in the image of God? Oh, shit. Sorry. Do you know what the transitive property is?
Women are humans too. Like, I'm a human, women are humans too.
Why? I'm sorry. Why are we having such trouble with just words here? If you'll just look up what a Homo sapien is, you'll find that it's a person, a human being. Those are all the same words. There's no need for us to get down this path. The title on your call here says the word of God is pure, and I'm sitting here wondering what the fuck do you mean by pure? But you come in like, oh, so you think we're animals? It's like, yes, that's taxonomically, that's how we're classified. So, like, I don't understand what this call is.
Well, I'm not an animal.
Maybe we can start by having you give us your definition. When you say animal, what do you mean?
I have pets.
Sure.
I am not an animal.
But what do you say is an animal? I'm not asking you what you're not. I'm saying what is an animal?
So humans will be like judged for every word they speak. Jesus said that for every word a man speaks.
No,
I have no idea why you think that's an answer to the question.
Okay, so I normally don't just appeal to the dictionary, but since we're trying to just describe how we're using the word here, let's start off by using the dictionary, right? So the dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary, states that an animal is a living organism that feeds on organic matter, typically having specialized sense organs and nervous system and able to respond rapidly to stimuli. Now, I can bet that you probably don't respond rapidly to stimuli. You probably don't respond too rapidly at all. But do you feed on organic matter?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have specialized sense organs and a nervous system? All right, 2 out of 3 is good. So you're an animal.
I'm not an animal.
An animal, according to the definition, is just a multicellular eukaryotic organism that belongs to the biological kingdom, as Aldous has already cited, which means you are an animal, I'm an animal, all of us are basically animals. So you don't have to like it. you can find a different word. Maybe there's a different word you want to use, but based on the way the word is used in English, you're absolutely an animal, and so am I. So is John. Now, how much time do you want to waste on the definition of animal? Because I feel like you actually had a point that you wanted to debate, and I feel like the definition of animal is not part of it. So what did you actually want to say?
I'm a man. I'm not my pets. I have pets. I'm a man.
I believe, yes, we believe you. So the question is, what's your actual argument? What are you trying to say right now?
I'm not an animal. I'm a man.
I'm aware that's your claim. That's a meaningless claim so far. We're asking why. Why are you saying this?
Justin, can you imagine calling in to somebody and being like, hey, I'm not an animal, I'm a man. And like, that's the entire point of your fucking call. And especially when you wanted to talk about God.
Dylan, am I wrong to assume that this I'm an animal or I'm not an animal has something to do with God? Isn't that what you called in for? Because your call-in note says that you think the word of God is pure, and that's fine. We're more than happy to engage in that topic. I don't think that what you've done so far has anything to do with what you called in for, though. You want to get on topic?
Who's the god of this world? Satan is the god of this world, as in like the serpent is who deceived Adam and Eve. Like I'm not my pets. I'm a man.
Hail Satan.
Hail Satan. Yeah, 2 Corinthians 4:4, telling the truth here. So my point is, no, Satan did no such thing. No, he did no such thing. So my point is, you have a reason to call in. It sounds like you want to talk about how the Word of God is true. I'd love to talk about that as well. In fact, I bet John and I would both love to talk about the Word of God being true. And it's like we could start. You want us to bring up a topic and we can discuss whether or not it's true?
The devil is truly evil, and
this guy concussed. What's happening right now?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, you know what? I have a fun. I like games. Do you like games? Dylan, do you like games?
Okay, being a man, not an animal, is not a game.
Do you like playing games? Holy fuck, dude.
Being a man is not a game. I'm not an animal.
Oh my god. You can't answer a simple fucking question, can you?
Okay. Look at how much
can you
evil
answer
there is
my
in the
question?
world.
Jesus Christ, can you answer my fucking question, please? Do you like playing games? Do you like trivia games? Jesus fuck. Okay, I'm gonna assume that you do. I want you to play a game that I created. It's called Omnibenevolent, and since you think that Satan is so evil, the only two answers as part of this quiz game here is either God or Satan. Okay. So here's the first question that I want you to answer, and we'll decide as to whether or not Satan is the evil one or God is, okay? So who saved the Israelites by a great deliverance when Eleazar slew the Philistines?
Jesus.
Was that God or Satan?
Jesus.
Yes, you're God. I mean, I'm assuming that you mean God here. So God killed a bunch of the Philistines. So God, that was God, not Satan. So God killed a bunch of the Philistines. Okay, next question. Who should we fear because he is willing and able to destroy both your body and your soul in hell? Is that God or Satan?
Okay, if you're cool with Satan, let's say I'm Satan. Why don't you sell me your soul?
Can you answer my question? Is it God or Satan that will destroy both your soul and body in hell? And we should fear that character.
This is easy to turn around. Let's say, okay, if you're cool with Satan,
it's just a question.
Satan, sell me your soul.
Oh my god.
It's just
Can you answer the
one or the other?
If you're so cool with Satan, like the devil that caused me to sin.
Can you answer my question? Holy fuck, Dylan.
What a waste of space.
I'll repeat the question. Who should we fear because he is willing and able to destroy both soul and body in hell? Who can do that? Is it God or Satan? And we should fear that character.
The devil will. Okay, dude, if you're
okay, I'm going to assume that you're choosing Satan here, and that is wrong. Okay, that's wrong. It's God. This is Matthew 10:28. Do not fear those who kill the body, do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell, and that would be God. So you should fear God because he'll fucking wreck you. Next, who requires blood to be sprinkled roundabout upon the altar for the trespass offering? So just imagine, okay, Justin, just imagine right here, you got a bucket of blood and you're spraying it everywhere, and then you're making, praises and everything. Now, is that God or Satan that requires blood?
God.
That is correct. God requires you to take a bloodbath in the middle of a temple in order to praise him. All right. Next question. Who will fill places with dead bodies of heathens? Is that God or Satan?
Wait. So if you're so cool with Satan that you want to praise him, then I'm Satan. Sell me your soul.
It's God or Satan. Just pay attention.
Yeah,
see,
who's going to kill the heathens?
You believe in God.
God.
You believe.
All right, you're choosing God, and that's correct. God will kill all the heathens and fill places with their dead bodies. So again, not Satan, but God. Okay. Now, final question here. You've already lost the game, but final question. Who cleaves reins asunder and pours out gall upon the ground?
Say it again.
Who cleaves reins asunder and pours out gall upon the ground? So, I believe that's just like your innards and everything. Like, who rips you open and spills your guts out on the ground? Is that God or is that Satan?
Judas killed himself after he betrayed Jesus, and his inwards fell out on the field of blood.
All right, it's not Satan or Judas. It's God or Satan here. Which one is it?
The devil.
Oh, you're choosing Satan. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's wrong because that's Job. In Job, it says, his archers surround me. He slashes open my kidneys and shows no mercy. He pours out my gall upon the ground. And he was talking about God in that verse. That's kind of awkward. I'm so sorry, but you lost and you need to go back and you need to reread, the Bible here. Anyways, so you were talking about how Satan's so horrible.
If you're so cool of Satan that you are willing to praise him, then I'm Satan. Sell me your soul.
You're not Satan, though. Dummy.
And you won't sell me your soul.
You're a Christian. You're not Satan. This literally cannot be. You can't be honest right now. There's no way, an actual breathing adult is this slow. If you're not a troll, I'm calling your parents.
The soul that sins will die. It doesn't say the body that sins. I'm not an animal, but a human, and my soul will be put
not
into
being
judgment.
able to pay attention to a single line of conversation. This is a waste. Maybe we can actually get this conversation on track. Let me ask you a simple question here, Andrew. Give me one reason why I should think anything in Christianity is true. You keep quoting random, out of context Bible verses that are meaningless to the discussion. Give us one reason why we should believe that your religion is true, and we won't cut you.
This will be my last point.
Nope. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to answer my question, or I'm going to cut you. You've now wasted 15 minutes with absolute nothing, and our audience doesn't deserve that. They deserve a real conversation. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to answer my question, or I'll just remove you and move on to Andrew. I cannot believe I'm removing somebody to bring Andrew up, but Dylan, we'll try again. Can you give us any reason why Christianity might be true since you're a Christian, or even why just a generic God is real?
Yeah, here's why. Here's why Christianity is true. Let's say I'm Satan. You won't sell me your soul because you believe there will be a judgment for your soul.
You're not Satan, dummy.
He's stuck. He's stuck on two things. I'm not an animal, and sell me your soul, which I don't think souls exist. So I'm not going to be able to sell you my soul. It's also, here, got a palm full of nothing.
I already sold my soul to Satan like a year ago. you're not Satan. So I don't know why you're pretending to be my dark lord. You're not. You're not even a cheap imitation. So I've already sold my soul to Satan. What's your next talking point?
If I was Satan, I'm the god of this world. How would you know that I'm not
You're
Satan?
not. You're not Satan.
Let's say I'm the god of this world. Satan.
Okay. Well, let's say you're the dumbest person in the world. That I would believe, and now we're going to drop you. Okay. Imagine being a theist and wanting to pretend like you are Satan for some sort of weird, like, gotcha. What kind of gotcha was he trying to even get?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was so confused. He was so all over the place because he started off complaining about how he's not an animal, which is just stupid, and then going on to like talking shit about Satan, which we more than thoroughly proved that Satan is not the bad guy in the Bible. Like he talks about Satan, how he's so bad, but it's like God is the one doing all the killing in the Bible. I mean, it's not like Satan requires you to sprinkle blood or blood around a room in order to cleanse yourself of sin and shit like that. I don't know. It's so bass backwards.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Maybe if we get some chance between callers, we can do a little bit of blood atonement talk. But I don't think Andrew's a Christian. He is a believer. But we're going to get Andrew from New Jersey, which I don't know why, but I thought Andrew was banned from the line at some point. Maybe a different Andrew. But Andrew from New Jersey. What's that, bud?
Oh, I was gonna say no. I had Dalton on, and we got him. We banned him, but I think that it might have just been on a Cus I Wanna. I know that Andrew can call into other places. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Andrew, how's the child rape apologetics going? Is it you doing good with that?
First of all, how you doing, y'all? I don't do child rape apologetics, but how y'all doing?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you were doing it the entire time the last time I talked to you. So, anyways, you want to talk about why you think, why you want to ask us, why do we think the God of the Bible is immoral? Right?
Yeah. What I want to say is, what I wanted to ask was, like, if the God of the Bible was real, would you serve him?
No.
Fuck no.
Huh?
So
if he said serve me, or you're going to be tortured, your family's going to be tortured. I mean, if you don't serve me, you're going to be tortured, your family's going to be tortured. But if you do serve me, I'll give you blessings and good things that come to you. Why wouldn't you serve me?
Actually, I'll give you a really good analogy, and I bet your answer is going to be identical to ours. If you're a Jew in Nazi Germany,
real quick, though?
Actually, I will, Andrew, and you'll find this really interesting. If pretend you're a Jew in Nazi Germany, and the Nazis say, "Listen, we need you to gas chamber your own people, or we're gonna murder you. We're gonna murder you in the most brutal fashion possible." Do you gas chamber your own people, or do you get yourself murdered?
I'll answer that if you answer mine first.
I promise you that my answer is coming immediately after you answer this. My answer is actually the same answer you're about to give. So go ahead and give me the answer.
No, you give me the answer first.
Nope. Again, not going to happen. You're lucky I even let you on this fucking show. You've been banned like 3 times. I guarantee you my answer will be identical to the answer you're about to give. So just go ahead and give it.
I'm not even being rude. I don't know why you don't want to answer the question.
You know the answer. The answer is you're not going to gas chamber your own people, isn't it?
So you don't want to answer my question?
I told you I have the answer to your question. It's identical to your answer. Go ahead and answer it.
Why is your answer based on my answer?
It's not based on yours. It's identical to yours because I already know what you're going to say. I'm a prophet. Why? Answer the question.
Why don't you answer my question?
I already told you. I already told you the answer to my question. My answer is identical to what you're about to say to my question. Actually, let me do this for John. John, if you were a Nazi and they said, "Listen, we needed to gas chamber your own people, or we're going to torture you horribly," what are you going to do?
If I was a Nazi?
No, I'm sorry. If you were a Jew in Nazi Germany and they said you have to gas chamber your own people or you get tortured, what are you going to pick?
I mean, I would get tortured. There's no way I'm going to send people to a gas chamber. That's
because you've got principles.
Crazy. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So if God was a Nazi leader and wanted us to harm our own people or worship him or whatever, we have principles. We'd say, go fuck yourself. That's the answer.
And what are those?
Except
yeah, but what are those
we
principles based off
we have enough balls to actually admit it. You wouldn't admit it. Would you gas chamber your own people, or would you get tortured?
Would I gas chamber my own people, or would I get tortured?
Yep.
Why would I gas chamber my own people?
I don't know. I'm asking you to answer the question. Would you gas chamber your own people, or would you get tortured?
Me personally, I would get tortured.
Cool. Now, what if the Nazi was actually God? What if God said you have to gas chamber your own people or you get tortured?
Wait, can you answer mine now?
I did,
can you
dummy.
answer mine now?
John and I both answered your question. You weren't listening, so we'll try again. If God told you to gas chamber your own people or get tortured, what are you going to pick?
No, I didn't
I'm
say.
sorry.
I said.
Is God in Germany right now? I think you're confused about what's happening. So we already gave you the answer.
I'm
If
not
God
talking-
was real and he wanted us to worship him, we would both say, go fuck yourself. That's the answer to your question. So answer my question now. If God
So
told you
would
to
let
gas chamber
so-
your own people or you get tortured, what are you going to pick?
So you will let. So you will get.
Like
rather
he's
get-
lost.
You tell God.
I'm going to interrupt you and I'm going to make you answer my question. If God said you gas chamber your own people or you get tortured, what are you going to do?
If it's at the expense of my own family, like in my scenario,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, of course. Then I would do what God commands.
Oh, that's fucking crazy. Okay, so that's the difference between John and myself and you. If God told you to do something
what's your
absolutely
morals
fucking
based off
horrible, if God told you to do something absolutely horrible, like gas chamber the Jewish people, your own kin, or get tortured, you would in fact just do it because it came from God, which is the same reason why you do fucking rape apologetics on other call-ins. We wouldn't do that, right? We would stick to like our actual principles, which are based in like logic and reason. Let me ask you a question. If your God was real, why would I be compelled to follow his moral code?
Yeah, why? How come you wouldn't follow it?
I have no good reason to follow it. Why would I?
Because you'll be destroyed and your family will be destroyed if you didn't.
That's actually not a good excuse. We already determined that getting tortured
Why not?
is not a good. We already determined that getting tortured is not a good reason to do something that you consider to be immoral, which is why you wouldn't gas chamber your own people under the threat of torture. So your God threatening me with torture doesn't actually change my moral outlook. It does change yours because you have no backbone and we do.
Yeah, Andrew,
what are
I
you
think that
talking
it's
about?
rather.
You're-
Hold on, Andrew, wait a second. I think that it's rather crazy that it seems like you're basing your entire moral code on whether or not you're going to be tortured. And if you are going to be tortured, then you're going to do
Nailed
whatever
it.
you can to not be tortured. So like if that means stabbing a baby in the face, then that would be it.
Why is that
right?
wrong?
Like,
though? Yeah, but why is that wrong?
For
No,
what John
okay,
just said,
no.
were you listening? John, say it again. You were 100% on the point.
Yeah, it like basically, Andrew, you're putting forth this whole idea that if you were going to be tortured, then you're going to use that in order to guide your moral principles. So, like, if God says, "I'm going to torture you unless you stab this baby in the face," then you're totally stabbing that baby in the face, which means that you're totally devoid of any actual moral foundation. You're just doing whatever you can to not be tortured by the maniacal blood god, right?
Well, I want to get your definition right. Like, I don't know. What do you mean by moral? When you say
Answer
moral,
the question,
what does that mean?
Andrew.
You talk about
Stop being a
harm?
coward and answer his question.
What did he ask? He thought it was.
So Andrew,
essentially, do you follow divine command theory? Or do you just do things because God says to do them?
Yeah, I base my morals on God. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So if God tells you to stab a baby in the face, then you're going to stab a baby in the face, right?
I mean, if that's what God commands, then I would have to. What else do I have to follow?
why?
Yeah.
Why do you have to?
You could grow a backbone.
Because
Yeah.
so what is your morals based off of?
So I told you
Secular
logic and
humanism?
reasoning. Yeah, John and I are both using
What is
logic
that?
and reason to come to our moral framework, which is better than yours because your framework, as far as we can tell, right? Which is why you're pivoting right now. As far as we can tell, your moral framework is I'll do what I need to do to not get tortured. Is there anything beyond that guiding your moral framework?
Well, God's my moral framework. So.
I'm asking you, is there anything beyond I don't want to get tortured that's guiding your morals?
Yeah, that's like I said from before. God's my morals.
Okay.
That's beyond being tortured.
Well, John and I don't care about your God torturing us. So why should we care about your God's morals?
Yeah, but okay, then don't. My thing is that you're saying that I'm immoral because my morals go on God's morals, but your morals are completely arbitrary. You say your morals
No. So Andrew, I want to stop this right now. Andrew, I want to stop this right now before you get to it, because you've tried to put us on the defensive here about our moral foundation. When we have a very secure handle on our own moral foundation, we can actually come to moral conclusions on things. While on the other hand, you would fail to tell us why it's bad to stab a baby in the face. Like, can you justify on your own moral foundation? Hold on. Justify. I need you right now to justify on your own moral foundation, divine command theory, that it's bad to stab a baby in the face.
On my own command, divine command theory. Well, God tells us not to murder, so I wouldn't murder.
No, well, so murder is an unjustified killing. If God tells you to do it, then it's justified. So you know that doesn't work. Your moral foundation comes to the conclusion that you should stab a baby in the face.
Well, if God, then it wouldn't be murder if God tells you to do it.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Thanks for restating my point for me. I don't. You're not a recorder. I don't need you to repeat it back to me.
No, yeah. So we're not allowed to murder.
Well, right. You're not allowed to murder, but that's not the scenario that I provided you. The scenario I provided you is more like 1 Samuel 15, 1-3, or Numbers 31, 17 to 18, is what I've given you here. That's God commanding Moses directly to go and stab babies in the face in both occasions. So if God told you to do it, then you would do it. Whereas and Justin here both have a fucking spine. Hold on. I and Justin have a spine and would tell him to fuck off. I'm not stabbing a baby in the face. You would happily lick that boot and stab a baby in the face. That's our point.
Well, why did God tell him to do it, though? Why did God tell him to do it? What's the context behind it?
What context? Tell me, Andrew, what context would make it okay to stab a baby in the face?
Like with
Everybody
the
wants
Amalekites.
to know.
Remember when God said, when God told the Israelites to destroy the Amalekites because the Amalekites waged war against the Israelites.
Not the
God said utterly destroy them.
So Andrew, right now, if God told you to, would you go over to Iran and stab an Iranian baby in the face?
No, if God told me, if people come over here and they kill my kids, and the U.S. military goes,
that's not what happened. That's not what happened in those stories. That's not what happened in Numbers 31. That's not what happened in 1 Samuel 15.
What happened in 1 Samuel 15?
1 Samuel 15 is God describing how the Israelites are to go to war with the people surrounding him. The people that were surrounding the Israelites were just merely occupying the land, which I don't know, maybe Justin can correct me on this, but I don't think that they were actually going at war with them or anything like that. They were just sort of existing there.
Yeah, so the reason given in the Bible, we're talking about the Amalekites, just pay attention. So the Amalekites made war with Israel in Exodus chapter 17. When they came through the land, they were probably afraid of their getting attacked because there's an invading army. And God said in Exodus 17 that I'm going to wipe them off the face of the planet. And then what he did was he waited 400 years to do it, right? Which would be the equivalent of like God saying after Hitler got done with his war, God saying, I'm going to wipe out all the Germans eventually. And then 400 years later, God tells America, hey, remember how I was going to wipe out the Germans? Go wipe them all out now. Never mind that 400 years have passed and that these people aren't the same people that actually did the thing. I need you to wipe all of them out. Would that be morally okay?
Yeah, well, he's the creator of the universe. He can do whatever he wants. Why is that immoral?
Okay, so again, you have no moral framework. Your moral framework is if God tells you to do it, you must do it. And there's no limit, basically, for you, right?
Yeah, but why is that immoral, though?
Well, we can tell you, but we need to answer the question though. Is there a limit? Is there something God could tell you to do that would be wrong?
Not really. He's the creator of the universe.
Okay, so then if God told you, I need you to like round up the babies in the local orphanage and put them through a meat grinder and turn them into Krabby Patty burgers and eat them for lunch, that'd be a good command?
Yeah, that would be moral. That would be moral because God gave the command. Why is it immoral?
Sure. And would it be moral if God said, listen, I'm going to need somebody to, because Andrew's been bad. He's been very bad. I need somebody to put a strap on and go to town on Andrew for the weekend. That'd be a moral judgment?
Well, that wouldn't be moral because that's sodomy.
Oh, now all of a sudden it's not moral. But if God tells you to do it, it must be moral.
Well, God is against sodomy, so that's immoral.
No, God actually didn't say that. God is not against sodomy. He is against, depending on which part of the Bible you read, he is in fact against like a man penetrating another man with this actual thing, but he didn't say anything about strap-ons. And also, it could be a woman. God's going to command a woman to put a strap on and penetrate you for the weekend. Would it be a good command or a bad command?
So a strap-on isn't sodomy?
No. According to like their traditional interpretation of sodomy is when a male penetrates another male with their member. So again, if a woman puts a strap on and penetrates you because God commanded him to do it, is it a good command or bad command?
Well, God wouldn't make that command.
I didn't say he would. I said if he did, would it be good or bad?
Well, he wouldn't.
I didn't ask you if he would. I don't know why you keep bringing that up. If he did, would it be good or bad?
You're trying to get me to answer a false premise like that.
It's crazy that he. Okay, we'll try something easier since you're actually intellectually dishonest. If God told somebody that Andrew's been bad, so I need you to cannibalize him, I need you to cook him up and eat him, would that be okay?
Yeah, but God is against cannibalism.
No, he's clearly not. He causes it on 4 separate occasions in the Bible, and he even brags about it in Jeremiah 19:9. He says, "I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and daughters in the siege."
Well, also Jesus said that the bread is my flesh, and then you're supposed to consume the bread and also drink his blood like every Sunday. I mean, that's been the OG version of it. Right, for the longest time. Whether you observe that or not, that's been the OG like interpretation of that you eat Jesus's flesh and drink his blood.
Let's say if God did command that. If God did command that, how is that stuff immoral to you?
Again, we're still waiting for your answer. If God commanded somebody to cannibalize you, Andrew, because you're bad,
yes, that would
be
moral.
Be a good command?
That would be moral.
There we go. That took a long time to get an answer.
Okay,
fantastic.
So why is it immoral?
Yeah. So I want to point out, Andrew, I want to point out that what Justin and what I've been establishing this entire time is that your entire position is devoid of any kind of actual moral foundation, right? You don't have any moral consideration here.
What do you mean by that?
Was I not clear?
What are you talking about? You said you don't have
saying that
the conclusions.
The conclusions that you're coming to, Andrew, are not based on morality. It's based on whether or not you can lick God's boot.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
To get more poignant with what John and An are pointing out, we're more than happy to tell you. In fact, I have no problem telling you that. But we're almost done with you. With this line of inquiry. And let me point out what John and I are trying to get to. Let's say, for example, there was a God that existed and the God actually wasn't good. Let's just say, for example, that it turned out God was wicked. Is there any way you could determine that? Would you even have a way of knowing?
If God was wicked?
Yes, if God was actually evil, do you as a believer have a method for knowing? See, because what you've done so far is you've just assumed that your God would only give you good commands. We have no reason to believe that. We have no reason to make that assumption. Why would anyone assume that just because... Why would anybody assume that just because God gives you a command that it would be good command?
No, God says, I form the light and create darkness. I bring good and evil. God gives
So what?
both.
Okay, so if
Yeah,
God
so-
gives you a command, why would we be compelled to follow it just because God gave it, other than the threat of torture? We don't even know if this God is good yet.
Because he gives blessings too.
So what? I don't care about
So
blessings.
he
Again,
rewards people.
so you keep reinforcing exactly what we're saying. Your moral framework is, I want God to do good things for me and not to torture me. So you think self-preservation for you at the expense of others is a good moral framework?
Well, it's not just self-preservation for me. It's for.
Then what is it?
It's just serving God. It's to
But
serve
why
the
do you
Lord.
care? But why do you care to serve God? But why do you care to serve God?
Why do I care to serve God? Because I believe that it's the right thing to do.
But how do you know it's the right thing to do? You've just assumed that it is.
Well, how do I know it's the right thing to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't
Your
thought that
moral
deep into the
framework
question.
so far is built on assumptions on top of assumptions. You don't know if your God is good. You don't know if he's even giving good commands. The Bible even tells you he gives bad commands. In Ezekiel 20, he gives bad commands to the Israelites to pass their children over the fire. So you have no way of knowing if your God is giving you good or bad commands. Whereas John and I have a moral framework that is built on logic. Do you think that logic can get you? Do you think that logic can get you to rational answers? Do you not know what logic is?
What do you mean
I
by
believe
logic?
he doesn't know what logic it is.
Yeah.
Do you not know what logic is?
Define logic. Define.
Do you
logic.
not know what they are?
No, I don't know what you mean by logic. Define it.
You've never heard the word logic.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. Define it.
Okay, logic it refers to like the method of reasoning. Like we engage in logic when we're doing reasoning and deductions and making assessments of things. We call this practice logic, but it also just refers to like a principle of thought.
So what does that have to do with morality?
Easy, because as it turns out, if your moral framework is illogical, there's no reason to follow it. Do you think that you should do illogical things?
Yeah, what's wrong with doing illogical things? People do illogical things.
I'm asking you, do you think that people should do illogical things?
Yeah, of course, if you want to have fun, yeah.
I didn't say anything about fun. I'm just saying in general, in life, should people make decisions that are logical or irrational? I didn't ask you about fun. I said should. The word should is important in this statement. Should human beings make decisions that are logical, or should they make decisions that are irrational?
Well, it depends.
On what?
On whatever you're trying to do.
Like what? To be sure, if you have a goal, you're using logic. You're using logic to get to that goal. Speeding isn't always irrational. In fact, you could be late for something that's very important. You could be on your way to the hospital, and it turns out speeding would be the most logical thing. So again, I'm asking you in general, in practice, should human beings, I'm not asking could, I said should human beings do things that are logical?
Should they do things that are logical? Not all the time, no.
Give me a sample where they wouldn't.
Like if you want to have like a race, and you don't want to really do, it's illogical to go slower than the speed limit during a race. So you want to go as fast as you can.
Is your goal to lose?
No.
Then yes, it would be logical to go slow because your goal is to lose. Like if your goal is to do something, then the logical thing is to do the thing that leads to the goal. So try again. Give me an example where somebody should do the illogical thing.
No, I said if you're trying to win, but speeding, we know that speeding is illogical because it can cause you to crash and die. But if you go
in a race,
but if you go slow, you're going to lose the race. Yeah, in a race.
Is your
in
goal
a race,
is
yeah,
your
the
goal to
faster you
win?
go,
Is your goal to win?
Yeah, your goal is
Do
to
you
win
have
a race.
Do you have a motivation to win?
Probably money.
Sure. And are you allowed to speed?
And on a public road.
Keep in mind that in races you are.
Well, I'm just, like if it's like a street race, you're not allowed to do street racing. But
So
street
if it's a
racing
street
is fun.
race,
It's illogical, but it's fun.
If you're an agent, it's not illogical. If you're an agent and your goal is to win, then you're going to do the illogical thing you need to do to win. You've determined that the goal of winning is more important than the risk of getting caught. So you're going to do the thing that you think is logical. Try again. Try to find a scenario where somebody should do the thing that is illogical.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is to everybody else, speeding in the street race would be illogical. To me, it's logical because I want to win.
Doesn't matter. We're not asking about other people. We're talking about the person actually making decisions. So to the logic only applies to the person making the decision. Try to keep up, Andrew. So I'm asking, in a situation, give me a situation where the person employing logic should do the thing that's illogical.
The person is employing logic. So you said to do the thing that's illogical?
Yes, agency is personal. So again, give me a situation where a person doing things should do the illogical thing.
A scenario where a person is doing.
Yeah, you're never going to do it, by the way. I already know the answer to this problem. You'll never find a scenario.
Then why are you asking me the question?
Because I'm illustrating a point, right? Basing your morals on logic is sound because we all agree as human beings that we should be doing things that are logical. If we do things that are irrational, typically that's what gets people hurt. That's what gets people lost, abused. That's what gets societies, underwater. We agree that the best way to achieve goals as human beings are to do things that are logical. That's why when we discover that we're acting irrationally, we typically self-correct. So my point is very clear.
Then
morals probably should be. It's not illogical. Because again, agency is personal. It's not illogical. If your goal isn't to have a relationship that ends in offspring or in a traditional pathway of offspring, then it is perfectly logical. If my goal is to have a relationship with a human being that is of the same sex, then it's logical to have a relationship with human beings of the same sex.
Yeah, but how is a man plugging another man from behind logical?
How is it illogical?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How is it illogical?
Because that's the agent's goal.
No,
if an agent has a goal of being in a relationship with somebody, then it's logical to be in a relationship with somebody. Again, we're using logic in the form of agency. Agents have goals, which means if an agent has goals, it's going to use logic to achieve those goals. You can't achieve goals by doing things illogically.
So it's logical to treat with like a corpse or something like that if the agent has goals?
Jesus fuck. Andrew, I would love for you. Yeah, I would love for you to explain to me, like in the case of homosexuality, what law of logic does it violate to make it illogical?
The law of what law of logic? I mean, there's nothing that comes out of it.
That's not a law of logic.
It's not a law of logic, but you're also just wrong. Try again.
Okay, you're talking about, does it violate the law of what? Non-contradiction or something like that? You're talking about one of those laws of logic?
Law of identity, law of non-contradiction, law of excluded middle.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to say something is illogical, then you need to demonstrate how it is illogical.
It just seems illogical to me. I mean,
okay, yeah, that's not,
then.
Yeah. So like for instance, I'll give you a for instance, Andrew. I'll give you a for instance. Okay. I think that your God your definition of God is illogical, because your definition of God includes your God being omnibenevolent. We can definitely demonstrate how God does things that are not good, right? Like stabbing babies in the face and other such things. And because God orders those things, he orders things that are definitely not good and beyond the pale. That means that he violates the law of non-contradiction, right? So because he violates the law of non-contradiction, that particular definition of the Abrahamic God simply cannot exist, right? So that makes him illogical. Now, I would like for you to explain to me how it's illogical to be a homosexual.
So wait, I want to address that previous point. If God creates something and he destroys what he created, how is he illogical?
Because he's contradicting his own desires. So, for example, if your desire is to create something, like in the biblical context, if your desire is to create something that loves you, that you can care for, then it would be self-contradictory to then create them knowing that they're not going to love you and that you have to wipe them out.
Yeah, but where does it say that he is omnibenevolent?
Oh, you don't think that he is?
I don't think so. Where does it say that? I never read that in the Bible.
It says that God is love. Do you think that God's not love?
Yeah, you can be love and not be omnibenevolent.
No. Is love, like identification, right? So it's not saying God is loving, or not that God is all loving. It says God literally is love, which means his actual identity is love. If your identity is love, you can't be unloving.
Where does it say that his identity is love? I mean, where does it say that he's like
1 John?
All because he never says, yeah, but it never says that he's all loving.
It says that he is
because we
love.
see multiple times in the
1 John 4:7 says that God is love.
Yeah, but if he destroys, how is he? That means that just goes to prove that. He's not. So he is love. He's not all.
Okay, so we'll just bring it. We'll bring it all the way around to the beginning. Then you worship a God that's not all loving and not all good, which again proves that your moral framework is shitty. That you think you should follow every command a God would give, even knowing that God is not all good and all loving. So, point proven. Thanks. We appreciate that.
So but your morals
got him.
But your morals is based on some arbitrary kind of like, I guess what
nope.
You said
the laws of logic are not arbitrary. Nope. The laws of logic are inherently not arbitrary. I don't even think you know what the word arbitrary means.
What do you mean by laws of logic?
You know exactly what we mean.
Christ.
I haven't gotten a clear definition from you what logic is.
I explained to you what logic is. You weren't listening. How many times do you want me to explain it to you?
Explain it again. Explain it one last time.
Logic is a process of doing reason. You're analyzing, you're reasoning, and what we've determined through the laws of logic is that there are 3 laws, as far as we can tell, that are unbreakable: the law of identity, the law of excluded middle, and the law of why did I forget one of them? John, which one did I leave out there? There we go, non-contradiction.
Non-contradiction.
Yeah, because there's no situation where you can exist and not exist at the same time. There's no way where you can be A and also not be A, so on and so forth. These are just the laws of logic, the way the universe works. And so basing your reasoning on the laws of logic, as far as we can tell, is the most rational thing a person could do.
Okay, based on that definition, if you're saying there's no possible logical scenario to where killing a baby is justified.
No, I didn't say that. I have no idea why you said that. What I said is the moral framework should be based in logic. So, for example, I'm a utilitarian, which means like if I have to, let's say I would have to execute one baby, but then I knew I would save 4 million people. I would fucking hate every minute of it, but I would feel responsible for the 4 million people, so I would do it anyways. Now, not everyone would agree with me. But to me, if I'm going to base my moral framework on logic, that's the endpoint that I'm going to get to. I don't know what John would do. But to be fair, you can actually answer this question in multiple ways and still base it on logic.
So would you kill 1,000 girls to save 1 million people?
It's a weird question that you would immediately want to murder women. It doesn't shock me at all coming from you. But nevertheless, if if someone put me in like an auditorium and said, if you don't murder these 1,000 women, we will murder many, many more. As a utilitarian, I would probably feel compelled to do it. But then again, if I actually have to physically do it, if I have to physically kill the women, no, I wouldn't do it.
So you would let the 1 million die?
Yeah, I'm not man enough to do it. I'm not man enough to murder somebody.
How is your moral framework better than mine?
I didn't say it was. Actually, it is better because it's based on logic. But again, in my framework, I can tell you what the right thing to do is based on logic. And I've already told you that I wouldn't do it. Now, to be fair, there is a logical conclusion to not kill the 1,000 women. So if you've looked into the trolley problem, you can have a logical answer in the trolley problem for killing the people or not killing the people. Both of them can come to logical conclusions. That's why I'm trying to reiterate. My answer to this problem isn't the only logical answer. There are multiple logical answers. You could logic your way to preserving the million by executing the 1,000. You could logic your way to not executing the 1,000 and then also losing the million. There's a logical answer for both of them. That's the difference also between our moral frameworks is sometimes when you are using logic to determine something, the situation doesn't always have a single answer. Whereas in your framework, it seems like the situation always has one answer and there's no way around it and there's no discussion. Like in your moral framework, we can't have a discussion about whether or not we should preserve the 1,000 or the 1 million. That conversation can't be had. In your framework, the only thing you can do is demand obedience to a God that you don't even know is good and you don't even know is loving.
Yeah, I was going to make the point. Hold on, hey Andrew, I was going to make the point that both Justin and I can use our own reasoning faculties to come to conclusions about the trolley problem, or in your weird case, murdering women problem. But you would have to sit there and wait to be told what to do, whereas we can easily make a decision for ourselves. You have to wait for God to tell you what to do in those situations. So I guess my question, putting it back to you, what would God tell you to do?
In that situation?
Sure. Yeah. The murdering women, would God murder the 1,000 women or would he kill the 4 million or whatever?
Well, I don't even know if God would murder him. He has the power to save them all, I guess.
Oh, okay. Escape hatch. I got you. You got that escape rope. God could save them all, but I mean, this isn't what God can do. This is what God would tell you to do.
Oh, if God told me to take out the 1,000 women to save 1 million, or else I'm gonna destroy the million, then I would have to take out the 1,000. I would have to take out the 1,000 women. There's no way around it.
But you do the other two. You take out the million to preserve the 1,000 if God told you.
Yeah, I would have to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the point.
That's our point. Our point is, Andrew. Our point is that you have no good way of actually making a decision there, because your ultimate decision is stance dependent on what God wants. Whereas Justin and I can make a decision. We can reason our way to a conclusion, right? You have to wait for God to tell you what to do, and then it's really regardless of how you feel about it. It's regardless of any actual moral conclusion that you've made. It's just you following orders.
I understand, right? you're basically trapped too, because you don't have God. All you have is utilitarianism. So,
No.
Yeah, but I'm saying
No. You don't have to be a utilitarianism. I'm a utilitarianism. You don't have to be. There are a lot of people that are using logic to come to their conclusions that aren't utilitarianism. That's just me personally. I don't even know what John's framework is.
I would go with secular humanism.
That I talk to who aren't religious. Yeah, most people that I talk to who aren't religious, they say that if they're for maximum well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to maximize well-being, and they want to limit as much harm as possible.
But again, not everybody is a utilitarian. That's what I'm saying. Like, there are plenty of people who are, but that doesn't mean all atheists are going to be. And there's a logical way to be a utilitarian, and there's a logical way not to be. There's multiple ways to frame your moral framework, or to build your moral framework on logic without being what I am. That's the great thing about using logic, is you actually have a discussion at hand. Whereas with divine command theory, there's no discussion. It's just strict obedience, no matter how horrific the command is. And again, you don't even know if the command is coming from a good place. You have to assume all that shit. You have no idea.
So then how come most Christians today, they're not doing what the Muslims do, like going around committing terror attacks, blowing stuff up? Why?
They are.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Andrew. Who's Timothy McVeigh?
You talk about the bomber, the Oklahoma City guy?
Yes, the Oklahoma City bomber. Do you know what religion he was?
Was he a Christian?
Yes, he was a Christian. He was very Christian. He was Christian as fuck. And Christian, especially Christian nationalists are committing acts of terror like all over the place. There was the various women's clinic bombings that happened at various points in time. There's I believe the Olympics bomber back. I believe that was in the 90s. I'm fairly certain that was a Christian. Like there's Christians have been doing terrorist attacks, kind of shit, like domestic homegrown shit in America for the longest time. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Andrew.
Even in Europe, Anders Breivik in 2011 killed 77 people in rebellion against the government because it was moving away from a Christian European state.
Okay, then if that's the case, then how come like most of the countries that are heavily Christian, or like that are heavily Christian, they also have heavy LGBTQ. None of the Islamic nations got heavy LGBTQ.
Because they murder you. In Islam, if you come out LGBTQ or you apostatize, they murder you. That's why. If Christians were doing that, and at one point they were, then you would find a much lower percentage of the population coming out because you'd be murdered. And that's exactly what we find in European history, is that when people did come out, they were murdered.
And that's what we also find in American history too. We also find that in American history too. Yeah. Do you know what the blue laws were, Andrew? Andrew, do you know what the blue laws were?
No.
No. Okay. Well, that's where they passed laws that seemed to that on the surface didn't target LGBTQ people, but were only enforced against LGBTQ persons, and it was to basically criminalizing being part of the LGBTQ community, and so it was enforced that way, and so they were persecuted then. There's been multiple times where LGBTQ individuals have been beaten to death. They've been killed. They still are getting killed even now. So what's your fucking point? It's not as widespread as the Middle East, so therefore it's better.
Yeah, I mean, what religion is more friendlier to LGBTQ? Islam or Christianity?
It's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's irrelevant, but also they're both pretty shitty.
Yeah, they're both shitty. You just compared two shitty religions together. That's meaningless to us. Because if you ask what's better for the LGBTQ community, Christians, Muslims, or atheists, we're just going to pick atheists. Like, you've given two false dichotomies. That's stupid.
Of course. I would say that. No, I would say that the atheist community is friendly to LGBTQ. That's true. But I'm just saying, between Christianity and Islam, the LGBTQ people are safer around Christians than around Muslims. That's true, right?
But nobody cares. Neither one of them are actually safe.
Yeah, but one is safer than the other.
It doesn't matter. You're asking which one is worse. We don't need either of them.
Of course. I'm just saying that one is better. I know you don't need
no
either
one cares. It's an irrelevant point. It's an irrelevant point. It does nothing for your position.
Hey, Andrew, let me ask you this. Both on both religions, which one says to kill LGBTQ individuals?
Which one? Both of them do.
Oh, okay. So it seems to make no fucking difference, huh?
Yeah, but guess what? What did Jesus say in the New Testament? Most Christians do what?
He said fuck all about LGBTQ individuals.
He didn't say nothing. Jesus said
LGBT people in the New Testament.
Jesus said to follow the laws of Moses. Andrew, I know that we've been over this. There's no way that you're going to bring out the same bad arguments. So if Jesus said to follow the Old Testament laws and the Old Testament laws, because they don't follow their own religious book, that's why.
So they're a bunch of fake Christians?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, if you just look at what the Bible actually says, what you'll discover is not only are there a lot of people who don't believe it, they don't follow it either. And so, yeah, a fake Christian is somebody generally who believes in Christ. But if you say you believe in Christ and then your belief doesn't match up with anything in the Bible, then yeah, I'm more than happy to say that you're not a real Christian. But I think the category of Christian is pretty loose. I think there's a lot of people that we can count into the Christian category as an atheist, whereas typically Christians would count them out. Like a lot of Protestants don't even count the Catholic and Orthodox. Obviously, we would count all those people as Christians. But nevertheless, what do you think that does for your position?
No, I'm just saying, I guess they know, if you look at all the the countries that are majority Christian, I guess none of them are Christian because there ain't a high rate of LGBTQ people being murdered like the Islamic people who actually follow the Quran.
Because the Bible is contradictory on this point. So Jesus said to follow these laws. He told his disciples to follow these laws. He told his followers to follow these laws, and he said to follow them forever. After he died, Paul went on a mission saying, no, you don't have to follow the laws. That's why Christians, by and large, don't follow the laws. It has nothing to do with them necessarily just being fake Christians. It's got more to do with the Bible being hopelessly contradictory, which you should know by now. I am almost certain that you and I have had this conversation about having to follow the laws of Moses. In fact, if I go back to my clip sheet, let's see if I have anything in here. No, I don't have anything written in here about you and I discussing the laws of Moses. I just wrote down that you were transphobe and xenophobic on our prior conversations, which appear to be true at this point.
Also a child rape apologist. So I don't know. You probably haven't talked to him about that, but that he's also that.
Sure.
I was not defending child rape at all. I was just y'all was saying that Mary got married at 14, and I was just saying that's not true. I mean,
we can correct it real quick. Let me ask you a question. In 2 Samuel 12, there's a passage that's, I think, pretty telling. This is when Nathan confronts David about what he did with Bathsheba. It says, thus saith the Lord, I will raise up trouble against you from within your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in broad daylight. For you did it in secret, but I will do this thing before all Israel in broad daylight. So God says, because you've sinned and you've committed adultery, I'm going to have 10 of your wives. I'm going to have them raped by somebody within your household, which happens in chapter 16. Absalom storms the palace and rapes 10 of David's wives.
Wait, that doesn't say rape. That doesn't say rape.
I knew. See? Yeah. We knew it was going to happen. There you go. So what's the word in Hebrew for rape, buddy?
Wait, you added that in there, though.
Nope. Try it again. What's the word in Hebrew for rape?
I don't know. You said sleep with.
There you go. So you don't know. Okay. So my point is actually pretty clear right now, which is that there's not a Hebrew word for rape. It doesn't appear in the Hebrew language, which means what you have to do is use the actual story and the context and your brain to understand what's happening. So what do we call it when a woman is taken against her will and is penetrated?
Where does it say she was taken against her will? He said, "I'm gonna have you."
Chapter 16. Chapter 16. They are taken. Chapter 16. They are taken in a raid. Do you know what a military raid is?
Wait, it says military raid?
Yes. Absalom storms the palace. He's running a coup against his father. I will never understand why Christians haven't read this book. He's running a coup against his father. He's trying to take over the throne, and he actually succeeds for a short period of time. He chases David out of the palace. Mm-hmm. He goes on the run. When he succeeds in taking over the palace, he asks the advisor, "What should we do so that the people know that we're in charge now?" And this is what it says. Absalom said to Ahithophel, "Give us your counsel. What should we do?" And Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Go into your father's concubines." Notice he didn't say talk tenderly to them. He says, "Go into them, the ones he had left to look after the house, and all Israel will hear that you have made yourself odious to your father, and the hands of all who are with you will be strengthened." Okay, so what you need to do is a display of force over your father by sleeping with his concubines, which is what would happen in the ancient world when you stormed somebody's palace and took over and demanded that you were king. You started sleeping with his women to dominate what was left of the harem, whoever didn't have time to get out, as a show of force over the person that you were dispossessing. So it says, so they pitched a tent for Absalom upon the roof, and Absalom went into his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. It was a power move. They were raped.
I'm convinced
that doesn't say that. That's not the interpretation I get.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
So I'm convinced that every single scenario that we throw at Andrew, he just has watched so much porn that it just all happens in a porn setting for him. Like, I feel like Andrew, the way that you're portraying this is like they're running this raid, and in your mind it's some kind of porn, a really bad porn where they're like, "Oh no, please don't," and like they fall face down, ass up, and they're like, "Don't do it," and everything. Like, I feel like in your mind that's how it's happening, because that's how you're describing it right now, and it's really fucking gross there, Andrew.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Let me ask you a question. If your son-in-law, hey, just pay attention, Andrew. Well, we can solve this riddle for you real easy. If your son-in-law storms the palace and chases everybody out of it, and an army approaches you and says, "I'm taking you to the roof so I can go into you in the sight of all Israel," do you think that they're going to say, "Oh yes, let's do this consensual. I'd love to have sex with my son, capital offense"? Do you think they consented to this?
I don't know if they consented to it.
Well, you're going to need to know, because this is how you determine whether it was rape or not. Did they consent to sleeping with their own son on top of the palace in front of all Israel, something that was a guaranteed death sentence? Do you think they did that?
You said it was a guarantee.
Yes. Yeah, if you're married to the king and you consent to having sex with the king's fucking son in the sight of all Israel, it's a capital offense on 2 different occasions. One for committing adultery, and one for doing it publicly, and in fact, fucking a third for doing it with your child.
No, then if this is under the threat of death, then no, it's not consent.
Obviously, it's not consent. There you go. So God commanded and caused the rape of these women, and he does elsewhere. He brags about it in Zechariah 14:2.
So you don't think any of the women wanted to sleep with those guys?
Oh my God, Andrew! This is the rape apologetics that we're talking about here. You're running cover for rapists.
I'm not apologizing for.
That's what. No. Yes, you are. You're running cover. No. By proposing this, you're running cover for rapists right now in the Bible. Okay, maybe if we put you in this situation, if someone breaks into your house and looks you dead in the face and takes you out on the back patio, and it's like, I'm gonna go into that ass. Are you gonna? Is there a chance that you could be like, oh shit? I do want it. And then you fall down, go face down, ass up, and you're like, and you shake your ass at the guy, and you're like, no, please don't. Like, are you like, is that the scenario that's playing out, or like, are you? Is that going to be somebody graping you?
That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now make it women, and why are you trying to make it out like, some of them wanted it?
I didn't say they. Okay, all right. No, all right, you're right.
No, yes, you did. You did. That's exactly what you said. It's like, how do you know some of them didn't want it?
No, so you're correct.
Oh, Andrew, please say it. Please say it. Say, I bet they liked it. That's what you want to say, huh?
No, I'm not.
What were they wearing?
No, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say. All right.
Well,
okay.
Listen, Andrew. No? We've covered a lot of ground. It's been almost an hour, and we've got a caller that's been waiting to get in for a while. I think we can probably end it at grape apologetics, but I'm sure you'll call in again on whatever our next topic is, and try not to get banned till then, okay?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers. Yep. Well, that was fun, huh?
Yeah. I like how he started laughing when I started describing him getting ass raped, though. I don't know why he was laughing about that.
It's interesting that when you put people in scenarios where, like, listen, if God told you to do something horrible to somebody else, would it be right? But when you put them in a situation, like if God said that this is going to happen to you, all of a sudden, like, their viewpoint changes a lot. It's almost like their viewpoint on right and wrong is just whether or not it's going to happen to me or somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, we had Harvey in the queue like 3 times, and Harvey dropped. Harvey, if you're still listening, I have no idea why you keep calling in and dropping, but we're more than happy to talk to you if you want to get into the queue. If you're not Harvey and you're a believer, we'd love to talk to you as well. The number is 720-619-2288. Right now we have an agnostic, Lindsay, in the queue, calling all the way from Colorado. Lindsay has a question about King Herod, it seems. Well, welcome on to the line with Justin and John. How you doing, Lindsay?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
Good.
Yeah, I have no idea how you handled Andrew's call. I would have muted him so far back.
I get it.
But that's just me, because I'm like, what do you mean Islam or Christianity? They're both sucky for the reasons that you gave. Like, as a cis white lesbian who's also disabled, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, I was curious. I'm agnostic recently. So, actually, John, we talked earlier with as I was a theist with born again atheist. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that call went well.
Yes, no, I do remember you. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, she was my little cheerleader and was like, "Come on over to the agnostic side. It's fine. You don't have to defend the weird shit in the Bible anymore if you're agnostic." And I'm like, "This is wonderful. I'm gonna do that."
Oh shit! I gotta hold on. I gotta. I still gotta tell. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I gotta tell Boma right now because they're keeping tallies, and she has to know that she gets another tally. So sorry. You go ahead. Okay. Sorry for interrupting.
It's okay. So I was just curious about King Herod and other historical people in the Bible. If it's mostly made up and the points don't matter, just like Who's My Line Anyway, or whatever that show was. I'm curious where I would find actual historical evidence for King Herod and things like that. Unless King Herod didn't actually exist outside of the Bible.
King Herod existed for sure. When we say King Herod, typically we mean Herod the Great. My understanding from King Herod the Great is we've got coinage with Herod on it. In fact, it says something along the lines of like Basilius or Basiliu, depending on the Greek nominative endings, which means something like the kingdom of Herod. We've also got buildings named after him, so like the Herodium. So there's a lot of other people as well named after Herod. Like there's a couple different Herods. There's Herodias. When it comes to the Herods, we seem to have pretty good evidence that the Herod family, like the dynasty of the Herods, existed, and there's still like stuff over in the land where you'll find like you can go and see stuff with Herod's name like still carved in it. We've got other writings like the writings of Josephus. Josephus mentioned Herod a lot, and so Herod's, of all the people we know in history, Herod, especially Herod the Great, seems to be pretty well established.
Yeah, and I want to. I want to add real quick. Herod the Great, and when he actually died, is one of the ways that we can actually date the Matthew's birth narrative, because because of like I know it has something, I can't remember exactly. It's been so long since I've actually done this calculus, but it's something about when a moon was done, or when a full moon was out, or something like that, within the month, like in the lunar cycle or whatnot, and like Herod dies at a certain point, and that's how we can date the Matthew thing, because like Jesus, or in the Matthew story, Jesus's family has to flee from Bethlehem to go to Egypt, right? And King Herod, we've been able to pinpoint, is dying in about 4 BCE, so it had to have been like before that that happened. So like that's how we can date that.
Okay, sounds good. And then my other question would be, were people actually crucified, or is that all made up as well?
No, they were crucified, unfortunately, as early as the Persians.
Okay.
Yeah. So for that one, we've actually got, let's see, I know Josephus talks about how he actually pulled a friend or somebody off of a crucifixion cross. We've also got archaeological evidence in the form of a heel, like an ankle or a heel with a nail in it, that seems to be from crucifixion, Roman crucifixion. So yeah, those things were actually things that happened. But I guess what I feel is more important is that crucifixion, it doesn't only exist in the Roman form. Crucifixion is actually an entire family of torture and suspension execution methods, right? So it starts off with like a very simple form of crucifixion, which is just basically impalement, right? And then you've got various forms leading up to that. There's like where you just have it's called a crux simplex, where it's just a pole, but you basically nail the person to the pole, right? And so you could either already be dead and affixed to it, or they could affix you to it so that you would die from exposure. So like there's like a whole study done on the wide variety of crucifixion and in general suspension, torture, and execution in ancient history.
Okay.
There are two books. There are two books if you want to do further reading on this.
Yes, please.
Check out, there's a book called Crucifixion in the Mediterranean World that would be really akin to understanding Roman crucifixion. And then another one called Crucifixion in Antiquity, an inquiry into the background and significance of the New Testament terminology of crucifixion. That one's going to go more in depth into the history of crucifixion, even prior to the Mediterranean world using it widely. But the first one, Crucifixion in the Mediterranean World, will specifically hit all the really cool bullet points that you want to cover for how to understand what the Romans were actually doing to Jesus.
Okay, so you said crucifixion in the Roman? What was the first one?
Crucifixion in the Mediterranean world.
In the Mediterranean world. Okay, thank you. I'm taking notes. So
it's by John Cook.
John Cook. Okay, thank you very much.
It'll be
So also,
it'll be a thick read, but it goes through all the actual like first-hand resources. So it'll go through
Okay.
like Lucius and Polybius and Pliny and Marcus, all the Roman and Greek historians. It's going to go through all of
Okay.
those texts and outline what they say about crucifixion and give you first-hand stories from the Mediterranean world.
Okay, cool. And then Justin, I was curious, do you normally use the Bible or the baby blender Krabby Patty scenario?
You know, I
When
try to
watching this stream. When I was watching the stream, I saw John's face go, "Oh no!" And then I'm like, "Oh, well, I mean, you could do that, but also you could get. I think it's prion disease that you get if you cannibalize. So, you know, it's immoral, and you get a disease from it. So,
Oh, interesting. I didn't think
it's
about
prion
that.
disease. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly certain that you get a brain disease. But yeah. Again, not
So
100%.
typically,
Please look it up to double check. But yeah,
the
it's an
the reason why
interesting
I
one.
do the baby paste question is because you want to push them as far as they can go with divine command theory to see like what awful thing
yeah.
they would concede to
Yeah.
doing. And I just, turning babies into ground meat just seems like about the worst thing you could think of. Maybe somebody else will think of something worse,
Mhm.
but it's kind of become a meme on my channel, so we just kind of keep going back to it.
Yeah, that is just horrific.
Mhm.
But anyway,
It's pretty
how?
crazy that people will actually do it too.
Yeah, I think that's even worse. I mean, I remember a while ago, like I saw on the Line Edge, I think it was with Jimmy Snow. Somebody was like, "Well, I'm believing because it keeps me from being less violent." And I'm like, "Well, if that's your moral compass, please keep believing," because I don't know. Again, I
Right,
don't
yeah.
normally handle calls like that, but like on a very basic level, just keep believing if it stops you from murdering because you have the threat of holy fire. So,
Well,
I don't
I
know.
think John's point earlier too holds true, which is like if you are only behaving in a way in order to not get tortured, you don't really have a moral framework. You've just got
Right.
like a selfish form of self-preservation. That's about it.
Yeah. I was curious if either of you are, let's see, do you know the history of the Nazi Party fairly well?
I can't say that I'm like well read on the World War II era because I'm not. What about you, John?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't intimately know, but I mean, because of our current, shitty situation, I've had to become aware of like certain steps in the Nazi party. Why do
Okay.
you ask?
Well, I was talking with Forrest Belkai of the situation of that I learned recently that there were disabled people in the Nazi Party. It
Yeah.
didn't last long. So if you go ahead and look up on Google, or not Google, if you go ahead and look up on YouTube, type in disabled Nazis, there's a small video and an actual article about it. And my point being, and he took the point of like, yeah, there'll always be dissenters and things like that. And I'm like, no, the point being is that they were killed because they were disabled. So,
That's what I thought. I thought the Nazis were into eugenics, and part of eugenics is getting rid of like the
right.
undesirables.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, but first they went ahead and did the let's. It was a short-lived program for the,
Mhm.
but yes, they were disabled. As a disabled person, I'm like, oh, okay. And again, it's
Yeah,
more of the
and
talking points that we see now as like you have to work, like disabled people need to like overcome their disability and things like that. And so yeah, it's just weird.
well, yeah,
Not
and I
weird,
mean, you've
but it's
got
just
like
it's
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say you've got people like RFK Jr. who wanted to create basically concentration camps for anybody that was is suffering from depression or any kind of neurodivergence,
exactly.
really. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the undesirable category in the Nazi Party was pretty wide ranging. I mean, it included black people.
Yeah,
It included
exactly.
basically it included everybody that wasn't blonde haired, blue eyed, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Just perfect genetics,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so but you did have a lot of not a lot, I say a lot, but like you did have collaborators that would try to, I guess, do what Andrew did, save face and try to protect themselves by turning on people. And so you had Jews that were doing that. Some of the Jews at that time were trying to survive that way, and I'm sure that they had some disabled people and others that were in the party that they were essentially using so that they could eradicate most of the undesirables, and then they would just they would end up
exactly.
finishing it off.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, in general, it's a hard situation for me, again, as a disabled person, to be like, oh, look what they did. And then knowing that people were in the Nazi Party, and I'm like, oh, I'd forgotten, like, I didn't know that part of history. Again, it didn't last long. There was, they had little pamphlets, I believe. This was like in 1933 or something. They had little pamphlets again. You can go ahead and look it up on YouTube. Again, the first video that you'll see, you can click on it and then read the entire article. So, but yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thanks for calling in and chatting with us, Lindsay.
Yeah, sounds good. And I did pretty well today. I volunteered at the invertebrate zoo, so I got to talk to people about at sea stars and other butterflies and things like that. So it was nice.
Oh, that's cool.
I didn't have to deal with human people. Not human people, sorry. Human problems. I was just like, nope, I'm going to talk about invertebrates. They're nice. So, yeah.
That's cool. Well,
yeah,
hey,
I do
Lindsay,
feel bad a little bit about this.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I do feel bad about the starfish. And I have to remember that Forrest said not to compare things to humans because it doesn't work out like that. And they have their own niche, and that's okay. They don't have a brain. They have neurons. So that's how they can regrow their arms so quickly. It's just a bunch of neurons and not a brain.
Mm-hmm.
So, fun fact.
Thanks for calling in. We appreciate
their feet.
Yes. Definitely appreciate the animal facts.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Have a good one.
See you later, Lindsay.
W Animal Facts. All right, friends. The number to call in is 720-619-2288. We'd love to hear about your God. We do take calls from agnostics and atheists, but we do prioritize theist callers first. Would love to talk to somebody who is of the even Abrahamic variety, perhaps that isn't going to do rape apologetics today, although not that we can control that. In fact, if you follow the Abrahamic God, I feel like the odds are actually against us. You probably are going to do rape apologetics, which I get because the God in this book is like super unsavory, super immoral, super ridiculous. And if you believe in it, you have to adopt whatever it says. So, but hey, maybe we're wrong. Maybe there's a good reason to follow this God, despite the fact that it tells you to do horrible things. And maybe you're going to be the one to correct John and I and let us know why we should care what the Christian God says. John, when you were a Christian, were there conversations, like, did you dive into any of the apologetic conversations around objective morals?
Oh, no. I mean, I was a pretty, I don't know if I should say it, but like kind of a brain dead sort of believer. I mean, I just believed because maybe it's just because of growing up in the South and like the area that I grew up in with the community that I grew up in. I mean, it was just sort of like, oh, here's God, and like, this is God. These are the stories. And I guess the closest thing to morals, I guess, that I was taught through religion was basically just encapsulated in what would Jesus do, right? Like, it just essentially try to be like Jesus. And so what I ended up doing, and I'm only recognizing this, after leaving Christianity, is that I sort of had this, fantastical version of Jesus in my head, right? Like, I had this idealized person, if you will, in my head. Like, what would this idealized person do? Like, what do I think a good person would actually do, like, in this situation? So I was essentially forming my own moral foundation and really kind of thinking it, through myself, but I was attaching it to Jesus. Like, for whatever reason, like, I felt like I needed to attach it to Jesus. And so, that's how my thought process worked until I left religion. And, I actually started thinking about it. It's like, I don't really need Jesus in this equation, because I'm already making these decisions myself. Like, I'm already coming to these conclusions. I'm already rationalizing these things to myself as to what is good and bad. And, I found that, I still had to deconstruct from a lot of the, like, internal misogyny that I had been taught, and homophobia that I had been taught, and everything. And so, there was still a lot of deconstruction for me to go through even after I left atheism. But, that was the first step, though, was realizing that there's no need for God.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I definitely get that. My impression, even when I was a Christian, when it came to morals, was I felt like everybody was already using both, like, a combination of instincts and logic. Like, if you ask somebody if something was wrong, they're not going to say, well, because the Bible says so. They're gonna logic through it kind of intuitively. And so when I was doing, like, reading apologetics, like, one point I read Mere Christianity, because it seemed like everybody had read it but me. And I remember reading it and thinking of, like, the objective moral argument. It didn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why Christians think they have objective morals. And then it was maybe a year or two before that, I had already read the Euthyphro Dilemma, or I had read some of Plato's works, which included the Euthyphro Dilemma. And I couldn't get on board with this idea that Christians have objective morals. But, like, if you don't have objective morals, I can't see a good reason to care what God says. Like, if there were objective morals, you could then say, well, maybe we have these objective morals, but only God knows what they are. Okay, sure, fair enough. But they don't even have objective morals. They just have God giving you commands. So I can't see a good reason to care what God says.
No, yeah, I don't either. It seems superfluous to even include God, like, in the equation there, because just like you said with the Euthyphro dilemma, it seems like you're either not talking about morals, or morals are outside of God, and therefore we don't need them.
Yeah, also, let's imagine there was a God, maybe a thought experiment, and let's say objective morals did exist, and God did exist. What guarantee do we have that the God that did exist even cared about the morals? Maybe he doesn't.
Yeah. No, I don't think that we would be able to know that. I think we're running into that that barrier of that's created by our own human experience.
Right. So then I guess we're back at where we started out with Andrew. Also, I know some people are asking, why are we talking rather than taking a caller? We don't have a caller in queue right now. So if you want to call in, you can get right up in without any wait. So we have an empty queue. We're more than happy to talk to anyone that calls in. So, but I feel like we're stuck. Even if you have objective morals, we're stuck at where we were with Andrew, which is that might be great that there is some kind of objective moral law code, but we have no reason to believe that your God is telling us what it is, or that it's adequately communicating it to us. And how do we know that your God is telling us what it is, and it actually isn't another God that knows what it is? What if the God of Islam and the God of Christianity disagree on what the objective moral laws are? How are you supposed to know which ones we're being told the truth about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an astute observation. I would think that we would be able to do some unbiased, I guess, analysis of it by how much does it actually benefit humankind. And I think that if you actually were to do an analysis of like all the things that God does in the Bible, they're definitely self-serving things. Like I recently ran like a statistical thing on all of the 613 commandments in the Old Testament, and it came back with like 47% of them being arbitrary. Like they're just arbitrary things for God, for God's sake. God just wants this done, so do it. And like that's 47% of the 613 commandments, and hardly any of them were actually like good commandments that actually helped human beings survive and thrive and provide them with happy, healthy lives. And I think that would be like the standard that you would want to measure it by, like how well does his commands actually cause us to survive and thrive. And I think that with our understanding now of what actually characterizes a good civilization where the people are happy, healthy, surviving and thriving, I think that we could definitely use that as a gauge for how well this God is actually communicating whatever kind of objective morals might exist. And if the God of the Bible is the one that actually exists, then he's definitely not communicating the morals that would promote that.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem to be the case. And like some of the laws, and I'm sure you read most of them, are so silly. Like not planting mixed seeds. Leviticus tells you not to plant mixed seeds in the field. Listen, I understand there might be like a benefit to not doing that, but it's weird to then make that part of your moral law code, or not to wear mixed fabrics. What a weird thing to include in your moral law code, but then also forget to tell people not to own slaves.
Yeah.
There's some other weird ones that like when you read through them, you think to yourself, like, I get why ancient cultures might be doing this. But it doesn't make any sense in like an actual law code. Like, for example, levirate marriage. You can see why, like, if you're an ancient tribal society, you would be like, listen, if your husband dies, you still need to marry your widowed husband's brother so that you can give them someone to give your offspring to, because women like typically didn't get an inheritance. They couldn't pass on the lineage, and everything for the tribal society was about building up your house. So you're like, we can see why some people in the ancient world might thought that was a great idea, but like, why would God give a damn about that? God literally could just open up the womb so that you gave birth prior to the man dying. There's so many other solutions when you're all powerful to preserving somebody's like lineage and estate, other than forcing a woman to not have any autonomy and marrying her widow husband's brother. Is crazy.
Yeah, I've actually got my little workbench open right here that's got all of them in it. The sorting, the category function is not exactly working, but like here's one from Numbers 6:4. A Nazirite shall not eat grape skins.
Just in case you become intoxicated.
Right. Like what? What the fuck?
It's a wild thing. The Nazarite vow is wild. You can see where some weirdos would get the idea that, like, listen, they can't have alcohol, so don't even let them touch grapes. But like the hair, come on.
Let's see. Let me get another one here. Let me go down the list. Let's see. Don't offer sacrifices outside the temple courtyard. Those don't count.
Oh shoot, yeah, that's a good point. Like, if God is concerned with the heart, then he shouldn't care where you do your sacrifices. But this actually gets to the heart of the sacrificial system, which is like the point of the sacrificial system was to feed God and also create a place of purity that God could dwell in among these filthy, filthy people. That's why, like, even in Deuteronomy 23, there's a really cool warning. And I don't think people are, they're not reading Deuteronomy, and I don't really blame them. If you've read it, it's not like it's a compelling read. But God basically says, when you go to relieve yourself, do it outside of the camp, bring a shovel with you, and then bury your feces. Don't do it within the camp because your God goes with you. He walks with you, and he doesn't want anything unsightly in his presence. Wait, what? God is like, his presence can't even be around feces? Like, what a weird way to conceptualize the deity. But that was where they were. They thought, well, God is going to be with us, so we've got to have a pure space for them. And so you've got all these rituals for how do we purify God's space? Oh, we need lots of fucking blood. That's how we're going to do it.
Oh, Justin, I don't know if you know this. Okay, here's another commandment, that you need to sound the trumpets over the offerings in times of trouble. So if you have times of trouble, you gotta play "Smoke on the Water," before you offer it to the gods. Sorry, God. It's my bad.
That makes sense. So you got to get the meat into like a resonant frequency to absorb enough of the Holy Spirit so that you can be victorious in whatever war you might need to engage in. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
I mean, when I smell like cooking and burning meat, I like to hear "Smoke on the Water" or like "Highway to Hell" or something. That's just nice. That's Numbers 10:10 for anybody wondering.
We do have 2 callers in queue now, so we're going to grab some calls. We've got one theist, Michael, calling from North Carolina, says Christianity is immoral. They disagree, and that's perfectly fine. We're going to talk about that, and we'll figure out whether it is or isn't. So, Michael, you're on the line with Justin and John. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for asking. So, is it safe to assume that you're a Christian?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Sure. And you think that Christianity is moral? You disagree with us. Why would you say that Christianity is moral?
Well, just in terms of if something's moral or not, I think that's always going to be subjective in a sense. So,
Sure.
Any system is going to be moral. So I don't think Christianity is any different from, any other system on whether it's moral or not. Now, just compared to something else, I guess would be a different question. Is Christianity more moral than not being a Christian? Which I would argue that, yes, Christianity then is more moral. And is the best system that we have.
It's the best system. Why would we think that it's the best system? Because I think when we look at history, it hasn't really produced good results.
Well, from a moral standpoint, I see that most of our laws come from this system, come from this framework.
Sure. Like what?
Can you
give us some examples?
Yeah, the murder being wrong, like the 10 Commandments.
Well, that existed prior to Christianity.
So, Michael, you listed the 10 Commandments. The first 3 commandments are just basically, licking God's boot. Like, how is that how is that part of a moral system? Like, why is it morally good to, affirm God as the supreme ruler of everything and other such things that venerate God? Like, why is that good?
So that it's grounded in some like objectiveness, so that everybody will follow the same. So that everybody will follow it, right? It gives it
so why do we need to affirm any deity in order to get to the whole objectiveness about it? I mean, I think that we can come to objective conclusions about moral actions. I don't think that like objective morality or absolute, which is typically what people are talking about, absolute morality, I don't think necessarily exists. I think that there's definitely things that I would say are beyond the pale. Like there's definitely no way that you could convince me it's better to stab a baby in the face, right? So I would say that I would be objective about not stabbing babies in the face, right? So But I don't see how a God is necessary in order for us to acknowledge those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, Matt, what can you tell me what is wrong with stabbing a baby in the face? I'm not
Yes,
defending.
I
I'm just
could tell.
asking.
No, well, yeah. So, right, yeah. So I go with secular humanism, which is about reducing harm. It's obviously, increasing the amount of harm to stab a baby in the face. There is no possible good that can come from stabbing a baby in the face, even if the baby does need to be euthanized in some kind of fashion. Like, let's say the baby is suffering horribly from like bone cancer or something like that. There are more humane ways in order to affect that than stabbing a baby in the face. So stabbing a baby in the face would definitely be like the worst decision that you could make, that would only increase harm and not promote human flourishing. So, I mean, that's obviously horrible. So that's how I would rationalize it. How would you rationalize it on a Christian perspective?
Well, I would say that God would say that's wrong.
Woody, have you read 1 Samuel 15, 1-3? Do you want me to read it to you?
Well, I mean, you could go further and use the example of Abraham, right?
Well, no, I don't want to use that. I don't want to use the example of Abraham where God punks him. No, I don't want to use that one, because that one, God punks Abraham, right? The one that we kind of want to focus on here is where God directly commands Saul or whatnot to actually put to death men and women, children and infants. So I mean, they're not gonna like put them down gently or something like that. They're not gonna feed them some kind of special Kool-Aid that's going to make them go to sleep and not hurt. They're going to stab them in the fucking face. So it seems to me like God would command that. So it's not out of the realm of God to command that. So under Christianity, how can that be bad?
I would have to look at that specific thing. I would have to. I would have to go back and read.
Right. So what context would make this statement better? Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children, infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. In what kind of respect would wiping out an entire people group like that in a genocide be reasonable and good?
And just all right. So what if they all had a disease that was going to kill the rest of the world, and you had to hold them?
Yeah, right. This was not about disease. This was about them attacking people that were just residing in the land that they were also trying to reside in. So it was not about disease. Also, as I stated before, right, like with the whole baby thing, if the baby's has some kind of disease, I use bone cancer, whatever disease you're thinking of, okay. You can just replace it with that. There are reasonable ways to euthanize, in those particular situations. This right here is definitely not that. This is a very violent death where it says, do not spare them, put to death men and women, children and infants, right? So if God told you, and I hope the answer is no, if God told you to go next door and stab the child next door in the chest, would you do it?
If the relationship that I had with God was such that Abraham and Isaac had, then yes. Because I would understand
that's fucking crazy. Justin, if somebody came to you and told you, hey, I want you to go into that house over there and stab a kid in the chest, what would you say?
I'd say no fucking way. In fact, I'd call the cops and have them arrested immediately. I'd probably
see how easy that was? You see how easy that was, Michael?
Can I defend why? Can I get my reasoning?
Yes, please defend why you would stab a small child in the chest.
Well, you say it's because God told me to. So now, and we're going with the way the relationship that I have with God is a relationship the same that God and Abraham had, which would mean at this point that for years now, God has, through me, worked what I've seen as countless miracles where God said, do this, and then I trusted him, and then it happened. Such that by the time it got to the point where he told me to do that, I understood that it was a more of a testing of faith, in that I was never going to stab the kid in the heart to begin with, and that if that were, that there was a reason for it, and maybe the kid was going to come back stronger, or maybe there was some reason for it. It just wasn't some arbitrary thing that God had me do. Right? This was not like you
would prematurely hold on. Wait a second. If you in any kind of way thought that a child might get stronger and come after you, you would rather stab the child in the chest while they were innocent, defenseless, and hadn't even done anything yet. You'd rather do that.
No, that's not what I meant. No. I don't mean he got stronger. Okay. I wasn't saying kill him before he got strong. What I mean is that there was like maybe he had a disease or something. There was some unknown reason for why I was stabbing this kid in the heart.
This is a fantastic, I'm sorry, Michael. This is a fantastical scenario that you've built here, which is totally devoid of what I was actually asking you.
Yeah.
My presentation is directly, performing exegesis on this passage right here, because it's very obvious that God does command some people to stab children in the face as well as babies in the face, right? So this isn't beyond the capacity of God to ask of you. You, however, have morphed it into what would be morally acceptable to you as opposed to what actually happens in the Bible.
So I think what he's trying to say is, rather than inventing your own scenario, just engage with the one that he's building right now. I think that would be the right way to do this.
Well, I'm not familiar with the Samuel, with the context of it. Like I would like to read into it and have an answer for this, but I'm not familiar.
We can read it for you.
I don't know, I don't know what happened before. I don't know what happened after.
We can tell you
just the context of it.
We can tell you. We can read it to you, but I'm still kind of curious. I didn't get an answer to this. What context could you put this particular passage in that would make it okay to slaughter, commit a genocide on an entire group of people? Is there any context?
God, yeah, sure. God killed the whole earth one time, right? I mean, he flooded everybody.
Oh.
So if they were corrupted, if they were evil, right,
making it worse.
So that flood killed cats too and dogs. Do you think that cats and dogs are evil by nature?
I don't think that cats or dogs have a morality.
Okay, well, that's not the question that I asked. Like, you said that they were evil people, and so we flooded the entire earth, which would have also killed cats and dogs, as well as plenty of other animals at that time that had nothing to do with what the fuck humans were doing, but God decided to kill them anyways. Just like it here in 1 Samuel 15, it says to kill the cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys. There's also another passage in here where God needlessly has his people hamstring a bunch of horses for no reason.
And here's, I think, why I would like to go back and read this to give a proper answer, because this is in Samuel. Were the Jews exiled after this, or this is coming back from the exile? Because what I'm asking is, I'm wondering if
this is pre-exilic. I do believe this is 1 Samuel.
Pre-exilic by about
after this
400 years at least.
Yeah.
So is it because they were doing things like this in the name of the Lord, and so you guys were wrong?
Okay, the very beginning of 1 Samuel 15 here, hold on, the very beginning of 1 Samuel 15 here says, Samuel said to Saul, I am the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people. So now listen to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I'll punish the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them. They came out of Egypt. So that was 400 years prior, I believe, if I'm getting that number correct. It says, now go attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle, sheep, camels, and donkeys. And I correct me if I'm wrong there, Justin, but the reason why Saul gets rejected by God is because he doesn't do that.
Yeah. In fact, in the same chapter, God says, I regret making Saul king. And it's because he let King Agag survive the slaughter. He didn't kill every last human being.
So all right, so I mean, so that's interesting. So he did that, and then God used him as an example later of, hey, I told this guy to kill. I told him to kill kids. He didn't listen. And that's the type of commitment that I want from someone, is someone that is going to listen when I say that. So he's still testing. Like, it's sort of the same test he did with Abraham. Because you don't know, like, if he would have went and followed through, you know, who's to say that it wouldn't have happened? It's the same as with Abraham. Like, so we have a precedent for this from God, and God didn't let it happen before. So who's to say it wouldn't have happened this time?
I mean, are you really trying to rationalize stabbing babies in the face here?
Well, because here's what's interesting. Why would you put this in your holy book? You know, that's what I'm trying to think, right? Like, this seems like the most insane thing, and it is. Why put it in here? Why put it in the Bible for everybody to read? And they haven't taken it out in thousands of years. Why is that? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So hold on.
You're asking, okay, right. Why would they do it? It's because it was normalized, right? And they didn't see it as a wrong thing, because they thought it was fine to stab babies in the chest. Do you think that it's fine to stab a baby in the chest?
No. No, that's silly, okay. Right? Like, it's absurd.
Congratulations, you're more moral than your God.
Well, I don't think that this is. So I'm trying to answer as to why this is in here, right? And I think it's because it's showing the moral progress of humanity. And it's not
why
so much
does there
about God.
Hold on. Why? Yeah. No. So, like Justin and I were talking about in the intermission there, God, 47% of God's commandments in these sections in the Old Testament are arbitrary. They ask arbitrary things of people, like don't make sacrifices outside of a temple. You got to cut your hair the right way. Make sure you put railings on top of the house. Don't wear, mixed fabric shit, right? He says all of these things. So, and he expects them to follow these things. Why does there need to be a moral development arc here? If God has access to absolute morality, right? Objective morality, then he should have mandated that at the beginning, and there would be no need for it. Why is there a need for fucking moral progressive arc here?
Because we don't listen to God, right? Like it.
Right. In this case, in First Samuel 15, the not listening to God is not killing people. What point are you fucking making?
Michael?
Yeah, I'm here. No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about his question, because there was there's two different accounts here, which is the faith, which is your right? Because he's saying to, like, go kill the people, and you're saying that would say, well, murder's wrong, right? But then the guy doesn't do it.
No, he does do it. Like he definitely stabs babies in the face. He definitely stabs, kids, men and women. Like he does kill people. He just doesn't eradicate them all.
Okay. Well, in general, God gives us a direct commandment. We don't listen. We don't do what he says.
Right, and in this case, the not doing what he says is not killing people. So this isn't like a moral. This is not a progressive arc here. Like, I don't know, Justin, am I going crazy here? Like, this isn't a morally progressive arc.
I don't think so. In fact, there are ancient cultures that would have considered this inhumane and barbaric. And if God says to follow this law code forever, which he does in like a dozen different locations, Deuteronomy 29:29, Deuteronomy 30, verse 6 through 9, Deuteronomy 8:28, Deuteronomy chapter 6, if he says to follow this law code forever, Jesus agreed in Matthew 5, then it seems like a notion that you need to be gradually brought out of some barbaric system doesn't really even hold true. But also, even if that was the case, you don't need to be weaned off of baby killing. You can just say don't do it. Like, and that's it. Like, it's not like it's a amphetamine or something, and they just, we need weaned off of it with like some other intermediate. It's just killing babies. God could say, hey, never kill a baby. Pretty easy.
Well, I think that's because we have the moral compass that we have now, right? But if you go back to Cain and Abel, right, where he kills his own brother, it was that's what was natural to man. That's what was natural for us to do.
I don't think so. If God just showed up and said, hey, don't kill each other anymore, their moral compass would have changed almost overnight. That's literally the whole point of the law. Like, the whole point of the law, God says in Leviticus, is that this is going to differentiate you from the nations around you. This makes you different from them. He says, don't be like the nations around you, right? So if the point of the law is to make a peculiar people that are better than the nations around them, then this wasn't the way to do it, obviously.
Well, I'm not a defender of the Torah or Moses' law. I'm a Christian. I don't they did some wild stuff with Moses and all of that. Like, I don't know the ins and out of that.
Well, how long did God say to follow the moral code? Like, when we talk about this moral code given to Moses, he tells you how long to follow it. How long does he say to follow it for?
I would guess until a new covenant comes in.
No, actually, the opposite. If you go to Deuteronomy 30, he says even in the New Testament era, this era in which there's going to be like a circumcision of the heart, that they're still going to follow it. In fact, I'll pull it up for you. It says, the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, in order that you may live. And Paul says that the circumcision of the heart happened when people believed in Jesus, right? So the circumcision of the heart is like a spiritual circumcision. And according to the New Testament, this is what Christians undergo. So when it says that God will circumcise the heart of your descendants, this is obviously the Messianic age. And then look at what it says next. Verse 8, then you shall again obey the Lord, observing all his commandments that I'm commanding you today. So according to God in Deuteronomy, when we get to this period where he circumcises the hearts of the people and all the people follow him, it's going to be accompanied by the laws of Moses. So there's certainly, like, if you believe that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah, there's no getting around this idea that God wanted these laws to be followed forever. They weren't like some temporary progressive law code. That doesn't show up until after Jesus is already dead. And Paul is like, hey, this is really an inconvenient law code for the non-Jews. The non-Jews really don't like this. What can we do about it? But Paul's basically just a heretic.
Well, I think that's the progression, though.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. Is Paul contradicts God. God said to follow it forever. Jesus said to follow it forever. Paul came along and said, hey, remember that stuff that God said? We ain't got to listen to that.
Well, what did Jesus say? There was two laws, like what? Follow him and love your neighbor.
He didn't say that.
And that's what
in Matthew. In Matthew 22,
loving God with all your heart.
In Matthew 22, he didn't say there were two laws. He said these are the two most important laws. So he's saying of the laws, here are the two most important. So he didn't give a new law. He didn't get rid of any of the laws. He just said, of the laws that we have, here are the two that are the most important. That's it. And it says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. That's Deuteronomy 6. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. That's Leviticus 19:18. Now, in Leviticus 19:18, just a couple chapters later, God says you can own slaves. So if Jesus thinks that this is the second greatest law, and that all the laws can be classified in these two categories, which is what he says, then it must be true that owning slaves is compatible with loving God and loving your neighbor.
I'll go as far as defend the slavery in the Bible also.
You said to defend slavery in the Bible?
As a moral, to defend it as movement, as getting out of slavery, and again, a moral progression.
But again, the God of the Bible says to follow the laws forever. That's what he says. And never once does he say not to do slavery or that it's a sin. In fact, even in the New Testament, Paul never condemned it.
And the Bible does say a lot of it says a lot of crazy stuff, you know.
So then why would we assume that God is weaning people off of slavery when he says to do it forever?
I don't. That can be read that way, but then when we look at reality of what happened, that's not the way it played out. And
I don't know what you mean.
Look at that.
All we have is a text. So all we can say is what the text says. The text says to follow the law forever. That law includes slavery. It also says in Isaiah 60, when we get the new heaven, the new earth, so on and so forth, says, the nation that shall not slave over you or serve you shall perish. So even in the final kingdom, God's like, hey, listen, there will be people that are going to have to serve the nation of Israel or they will perish. God never gets rid of slavery.
Well, we still have slavery today, right?
Well, we have different forms of slavery. That's neither here nor there. The question is, should there be? Right? I agree that there seems to be cases of slavery going on today. I'm not in favor of them.
Michael, I'm wondering.
Yeah,
Michael, I'm wondering, since you think Christianity is a moral system, or God is moral, can you use your moral system to justify slavery as being bad, or to say come to the conclusion that slavery is bad?
I believe owning another. It does seem that owning another person is bad, and then and then you would have to tie that to like where specifically God says to do that. And it depends on what type of slavery, like chattel slavery. I would
Chattel?
say that the Bible or chattel, that it specifically would, you can find specifically where it would say that is wrong. So yeah, if we're talking about that type of slavery, yes. A prison type slavery?
No. Hold on. Let's go back to chattel slavery. Hold on. Let's go back to chattel slavery, because I feel like you just said that the Bible said that chattel slavery is not in the Bible. Is that what you said?
Well, no. I'm saying that I could find where morally the Bible says that is wrong, because there's rules of how you should treat your slave, and I think that in, I'm going to keep saying chattel. I don't know. I see it as a French word for some reason. Chattel. That it's that violates what the Bible says and how you should treat your slave. So then I would say that it was
nope. Where does it say that? Like, where does it lay that out?
What does it say, to not beat your slave?
Yeah.
How does that warn against treating people as chattel slavery?
But didn't they get beat? Isn't that like one of the main, like you had to beat them into like submission because you're stealing them from somewhere?
Well, first of all, it doesn't say you can't beat your slaves. No, hold on, Michael. It doesn't say you can't beat your slaves. It says that you can't beat them to death within 3 days. Like you can beat them as much as you want to, as long as they don't die within 3 days, right? So that's what that part's talking about there. But that's not a preclusion of chattel slavery. What's your understanding of chattel slavery? Like, what is chattel slavery to you?
Being taken and sold into slavery for life from your families, and I mean, you're just never going to get out of it, right? You didn't do anything wrong. You're literally just kidnapped and sold into the system.
Okay, I know exactly why you're using the words kidnapped there, but is kidnapping the only way in which people were put into slavery at this time?
Or, I mean, yeah, whatever term we want to use for, like, taking somebody and they could be born into it.
Well, you could be born into it, but there's also prisoners of war that were forced into slavery and everything like that. So kidnapping is not a definition of what chattel slavery would be. Chattel slavery is movable property. It's when you own somebody as property, like the person does not have the ability to like remove themselves from that situation. They do not have any kind of like autonomy over their lives. Their work is, they don't derive any benefit from their work. Their masters derive benefit from their work. It's the exact same way that you would define like, ownership of cattle or something like that. Right. So I'm looking at right now Leviticus 25:44-46, and it says, you may buy your male and female slaves are to come from the nations around you. You may from them you may buy slaves. Right. You may also buy some of the temporary residents living among you and members of their clans born in your country, and they will become your property. You can bequeath them to your children as inherited property and can make them slaves for life, but you must not rule over your fellow Israelites ruthlessly. Now, in the New Testament, because I know that you're going to pull the New Testament shtick, Jesus doesn't say don't own slaves. He doesn't say anything about that precludes the owning of slaves. So I'm just kind of curious, going back to the question, circling back around, how can you, as a Christian, say that slavery is wrong?
Because people should be free. They shouldn't be owned. They have rights and freedoms.
Based on
which is nowhere in the Bible.
To be free.
Based on what? Like, I agree with you. I think people have the right to be free, but I can base it on something. I don't think you can, right? Or maybe you can, but it won't be the Bible.
Well, it's not very loving it's not loving your neighbor to own them as a person.
Doesn't matter. They're not your neighbor.
Property.
We already pointed out in Leviticus 19:18, when God said to love your neighbor as yourself, just a couple of chapters later, he says you can own slaves. So loving your neighbor is obviously compatible with owning slaves.
Well, that's part of the moral progression, is that we moved away from that.
No, it's not. So again, God said that loving your neighbor as yourself is compatible with owning slaves, which means it's not a progression. Owning slaves is compatible with that command. You don't have to progress out of it.
What if having the slaves isn't a bad thing? What if there are circumstances to where having a system of slavery is needed?
That's what we're saying. The Bible says that slavery is okay. So we're going to say it's not okay because we think that human beings have a right to autonomy. But that's based on our moral framework. In your moral framework, you can't say that. You would have to agree with the Bible that there was nothing wrong with slavery. So imagine the transatlantic slave trade. You go and you buy a slave and you own them. Let's just imagine that you only beat them when necessary, and that you treat them like you would any other worker. Would that be wrong in your worldview?
Yes, I would
Why?
say so.
Based on what?
Repeat the question again. If I own slaves and I treated, repeat the question.
If you live in the South and you say, I'm going to buy a slave, imagine you live in the 1800s, early 1800s, and you say, I'm going to buy a slave. You go out, you buy a slave, and you treat them like they're a hired servant. You don't go out and purposely murder them. What would be wrong with owning a slave in your worldview?
Nothing.
Exactly, that's the point.
But here's right. So you're saying that there's never a condition in which you would own a slave.
Exactly,
No,
that's the
that
point
you
we're
would have a
making.
slave?
We're saying in our moral
Right.
framework,
So
it does
what-
not allow
so
for
if-
owning slaves because we think that all human beings are entitled to autonomy.
Okay, what if someone were to say, all right, there's a village of 100 people. Now, we have a choice to make. We can kill these 100 people because we don't have resources for them, or I can
Wait, why
sell
would you
them to
kill them?
with slaves?
Why would you kill a village just because you lacked resources?
Holy false dichotomy, Batman.
Hold on. I'm a general here, and I've come in and I'm saying there's a village here, and I'm going to kill these 100 people. Now,
why are you going to kill them?
The opportunity, because I'm the God of the Old Testament.
Michael, just pause. I'm trying to figure out why you're building this scenario. If you're the general and you have a town, why are you killing them?
No, it's a town that I've invaded. It's my neighbor. It's my neighboring town. Right?
Why did you invade them?
And instead of loving them as neighbors, I'm going to enslave them.
Why did you invade them?
I'm going to kill them.
Yeah, but why?
I don't like them.
Keep asking you why. I need you to help. Okay, so you're just going to kill a bunch of people because you don't like them. This is not going to go well.
Yes. Right. And what I'm saying is that now I come to you, right, and I say, hey, I'm going to kill them, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to buy them as slaves to do with them as you wish.
Okay, so if you did that, I would murder you.
You can never. You can say
to be sure, Michael. If you did that, I would make sure you get locked up because you're committing crimes against humanity.
Yeah, those are war crimes, Michael.
I'm like the general.
We have a Geneva Convention for a reason.
This is hundreds of years ago. This is none of that's around. Right. This is 1,000
Yeah, I agree.
years ago.
I'd still do the same. If you attacked a city just because you didn't like them, and I was watching it happen.
Right.
And you came to me, said, "What should I do?" I'd said, "You're getting locked up, bruh."
No. I'm giving you the opportunity to save them I'm going to sell them as slaves to you.
Oh no, I'll save them by getting rid of you. Is what I'm saying.
But when I'm at, so you wouldn't own them as slaves. You would let me kill them.
No, I would never. That's ridiculous.
No. So Michael, you've essentially are trying to pigeonhole us here into making a choice between two immoral actions. I mean, I guess you're trying to do some demented version of the trolley problem in this situation, but like, the problem with your situation is that there are plenty of other options that we could have available to us. It's not just these two options.
I'm the general.
It's actually a false dichotomy is what it is. Yeah, but you're presenting a false dichotomy is what you're saying. You're saying there's only two options and there's not two options. You need a different analogy.
Okay, it's all right. I'll do all right. It's 1940s and there's a mustache man, and there's a train of people. There's a train of people that are going to a camp, and I say, hey, look, I can derail this cart, and you can buy these people as slaves and do with them as you wish, or you can let them go into the camp. Which one would you do?
I would accept them as slaves and then release them fucking immediately.
Okay, all right. So
did you hear my answer?
No.
You didn't hear my answer.
Yeah,
try listening. Try putting your listening ears on.
Slaves,
and then I would release them immediately without making them slaves.
You would release them. Right. But you would.
So the answer to your question is no. I would still not own slaves.
You owned them as slaves when you bought them.
No, I didn't.
That was the condition.
Purchasing people in order to release them is not owning slaves. Trade. Purchasing people for their emancipation is not owning slaves. This is not difficult.
What about if I said
if you pay? Hold on, Michael. If you pay a ransom, if you pay a ransom for somebody, you're not buying them as a slave. You're purchasing their freedom, which is exactly what Justin just said that he would do. I mean, I know that you're trying to portray it as like purchasing them as slaves, but he was giving you the option of, or he was choosing the option of purchasing their freedom. That's different.
Right. No, and well, that's what I'm trying to get at, is that there exist situations in which, let's say instead of killing the people in a neighboring town that we took over, we got them as slaves.
No. There was no slaves. And Justin, I'm sorry, Michael. In Justin's answer there were no slaves. He purchased their freedom.
Oh no,
he didn't purchase them as property. There's no slavery in Justin's answer whatsoever.
Right. I understand that. And
then why are you trying to force slavery into this particular gape?
Because I was just I'm trying to show the example that there could be a reasonable case where, people of a certain time see this as a just act, and that. Why are you desperately trying to make slavery a just act? Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah. It's crazy too, because the problem that you have, Michael, you're saying some people back then might feel that it's a better alternative, but we're not talking about people back then. We're talking about an eternal God that doesn't change and has a law code that doesn't change. So you can't say, well, people back then, God's immutable. His morals don't change. So it's irrelevant what you think people back then would think.
Well, because if God just tells us to not do anything, we don't do it, right? Like, God says don't murder, and we still murder. Just because God says don't have slaves doesn't mean we're going to not have slaves.
God never says that.
So first of all, the point you're attempting to make is people don't follow God's commands, and that's great. We know people don't follow God's commands. That's irrelevant to deciding what is a just command. So God doesn't give commands just because he thinks you'll follow them. He knows you won't follow them. He gives commands because he says in Deuteronomy 8:28, by doing these commands, you'll be doing what is good and right in the sight of the Lord your God. What that means is that owning slaves is doing what is good and right in the sight of the Lord.
I think in that system, in order for, like I said, the moral progression to happen, that he's moving.
We already covered this. Michael, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know why you don't listen to me. I have no idea why I have to say this 3 different times. The God of the book said to follow these laws forever. Every time you say moral progression, I'm going to read you a new Bible verse that says to follow the laws forever. How about that?
But he nowhere does. But God changes the laws also, right?
No, he doesn't. Matthew 5:17 through 19, Jesus says, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus says, if you break these commandments, you're going to be least in the kingdom of heaven. That's why he says, whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So what that means is doing the laws of Moses makes you great in the kingdom of heaven. You're never going to get away from following these laws unless you just admit that you're a heretic and you believe what Paul said and not what Jesus and God says. You're welcome to do it. Listen, I would love for you to openly admit that you're a heretic and you don't believe what God says, you believe what some guy named Paul says. I'm happy to do that.
I'm not the biggest Paul fan, so I don't think I will listen to Paul much to begin with.
So Jesus said, when the rich young ruler came to him, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He says, you know the commandments. And then he tells them to follow the commandments to inherit eternal life. Jesus believes that you got to follow these commandments, man. And Yahweh does too. Yahweh says to do it forever. So this whole progressive nonsense doesn't work. It also doesn't work when it comes to slavery. You don't need progressivism to come out of slavery. You can just say, don't fucking do it. Because he does it in Leviticus 25. In Leviticus 25, 39 through 44, he says, don't make slaves of your own fellow Hebrew brethren. Only do it with these foreigners and women, according to Exodus 21. So God could have said, hey, you know how you don't make slaves, permanent slaves of your own fellow Hebrew men? Don't do it with the foreigners either. It would have been no skin off his back just to say, hey, treat everybody like they're Hebrew men. He could have said that. He didn't say that because he doesn't care about them.
May I ask a question? A little bit of a pivot, but on the same topic. If you had secular humanism and it became the majority of how it became like the law for everyone, how would you end slavery that exists today?
I think we would end it using logic and reason. The problem with slavery, why it was so hard to get rid of, is because, one, it was an old institution, and number two, because it was enshrined in all these religions. All these religions approved of it. So you had to convince people, like in America, we had to convince Christians that somehow God wanted you to get rid of your slaves. That was an actual battle that we had to fight. And it was a difficult one because according to the Bible, it literally says that you are allowed to own slaves, which of course is why all the early Christians pointed to it. The Christians in America, even like the president of the Confederacy and the vice president of the Confederacy, when you read their speeches, they say, hey, the Bible doesn't condemn it. The Bible approves of it. This is God's ordained will for humanity, that those who are under the curse of Ham remain inferior to, the white race. This was their position. So that's why it took so long to get rid of it, is because a lot of the people owning slaves had a justification from God to own slaves.
Well, and then I would say even before then, God had the same issue. That even before he made any laws, that he improved the existing ones in such a way that he was using logic and reasoning, because he couldn't just say, hey, everybody stop doing slavery, and everyone just listen and stop doing slavery.
What laws did he improve upon?
Well, whichever laws that he made to begin with were an improvement on the existing laws, whatever they were.
Which laws?
I would assume that's why he made them.
Which laws did he improve upon?
If you're saying maybe you could beat your slaves to death after 3 days or whatever that rule was, right?
No, you couldn't. You could not do that. Law. Nope. There are law codes in the ancient Near East that prohibit that. You can't just beat your slave to death. That's murder.
Mm-hmm.
What was the code that you couldn't do it for 3 days? What was the law again?
That's Exodus 21 verses 20 and 21 says, if you beat your slave so that it dies immediately as you're beating it, it says actually in the Hebrew, under your hand, then you'll be punished. But if the slave dies a couple days later, after 2 to 3 days, then it's presumed to be either not your fault or accidental, and then there's no punishment. However, in the ancient Near East, there typically were punishments for just outright murdering your slave. It's not like the Hebrew Bible invented this. And even like the laws of service for 7 years, so Exodus 21 and Deuteronomy talk about how you can serve for 6 years and go free in your 7th if you're deep in debt. But like Law 117 in the Hammurabi Code, which came hundreds of years before Moses, says that you only have to serve for 3 years before you get your freedom if you're a debt slave. So I don't know which laws specifically you think are being improved upon. Which laws are being improved upon here?
Like I said, I assumed the ones that were being practiced at the time.
But which ones? Because I'm familiar with the law codes. So like I've read Hammurabi, I've read the other ones. Like I'll give you an example. In Exodus 21, you're allowed to sell your daughter as a slave. You're going to sell her against her will as a slave, as a concubine. In the ancient Near East, you could do that. You can just sell your daughter as a slave, as a concubine. She has no say in it. Did the Bible improve on this?
It doesn't sound like an example you gave.
Exactly, yeah, there's no improvement there. Law 115 of Hammurabi says you can sell a slave girl and allow her to be redeemed. If she is redeemed, you can't sell her as a slave again, which is very similar to Exodus 21. So again, no improvement. In fact, we've got evidence that the laws given in Exodus basically kind of mirror the Middle Assyrian law codes as well as some of the Hammurabi law codes. It's like bar for bar, the biblical law is just copying from the ancient Near Eastern laws. It didn't improve anything.
Well, how?
So,
okay, be that as it may, if you and I'll grant you that you're right. Within a secular humanist society, how would you end slavery?
Oh, easy. We would use logic and reason. Like we would say, listen, everybody, and this is what the framers of a constitution and some. But we'll find out. I'll tell you why. Okay, so early on in America, we had people. Some of them were deists. Some of them were humanists who believed in the equality of people, and it was a very difficult thing to sell. But they literally believed that all people had inalienable rights. And they made logical, rational cases why this would be the thing, and they won people over to their side. It wasn't something that happened overnight. And so once we get to a point where, in fact, you can use logic and reason, it's not hard to come to a point where you're like, is there a good logical, rational reason to own slaves? And it's going to come down to no, there's not a good logical, rational reason to own slaves. And people, like philosophers, have been talking about this for a very long time. Even prior to Jesus, there was a couple hundreds of years in China where they outlawed slavery. And there were good philosophical reasons for it. And one of the reasons is because human beings overall are agents. If you believe that we're agents and we have, for example, the ability to feel things, to have pain, to have suffering, and if you don't want to have pain and or suffering, then it's wise to live in a society where we prohibit the pain and suffering. Because if you don't want it, it's easy to assume that other people don't want it as well, right? So if we're saying, listen, I don't want to be a slave. Well, hold on. If we're saying, I don't want to be a slave, John doesn't want to be a slave, my neighbor doesn't want to be a slave, John's neighbor doesn't want to, none of us actually want to be slaves, right? So we would come together and say, listen, it seems to be that the thing that makes the most sense is that none of us actually want to be slaves. So we should come together and say, listen, it seems to be that the best thing we can do is to make an agreement that within our community, we're not going to allow other people to own other people as property, being that everybody here sees that it has a negative impact on the person who is in fact a slave. So you can just use logic, reason, and empathy to figure out that slavery is not really beneficial.
This is the slave master morality, where it's bad because you see the master do it. What if there was a system that ruled by force and power, and they said that we're using this and you can't make us not use it?
That's irrational. Just doing things because you have enough power to do it is not a rational moral system. And neither John or I would agree with that system.
Yeah,
How
it's
would
also
you
not
make
the
them-
system
how
that you
would
keep
you-
trying to propose. Well, it's also not the system. Maybe my mind drifted for a second, but it felt like you were trying to ask us or try to justify, have us justify why slavery is wrong on secular humanism or how we would stop it. And then now you're proposing this like ultra authoritarian system where people are forced into slavery. I don't see how these connect. Like, I feel like we're up shit creek with one paddle.
Well, because I'm trying to get to how would secular humanism enforce the...
We've answered this twice
the
at
idea-
least already, if not 3 times. We've answered this through logic and reason. Like,
Through
our
logic,
answer's not going to
reason,
They
change.
didn't listen.
Logic, reason,
if they
and
don't-
cooperation. So we live in a society where people can make decisions about what kind of society they want to live in, right? And so we can
What
say,
if-
here are
what
the
if the
laws of the
decision they
society.
wanna
If you want to live in the society, you're going to follow these particular rules. We can revisit them. We can vote on them. We can decide later if we made a bad choice. But we have an actual system where we get to decide what our moral basis are going to be. And if you don't want to follow them, if you want to go around hurting people, there can and will be consequences to it.
How would you enforce those consequences onto...
It'd be easy.
Like
It would be segregation. So the people that are harmful to the other people in society will be segregated, not because we want to segregate them, but because we owe it to ourselves to minimize the actual harm. Like, if you believe that you want to minimize harm in society, then at some point, if somebody is harming society, you have to segregate them from those that they are harming.
I don't see how you could ever enforce that.
I just told you, through cooperation.
Yeah, but what if they
And
don't
your
wanna
only
cooperate with you?
response, Michael, seems to be incredulity. Like, you can't think of a way, so therefore there's not a way. So you're just incredulous
Well, I can
about
think
it.
of I can think of a way, which is through a moral progression.
No, you can't. You don't have it. You've got moral commands that don't change. You don't have progressive.
Well, in Christianity, you went from the rules of the Old Testament to we don't have
No, you
slavery
don't.
anymore.
No, you don't. You don't get that with Christianity. You get that only if you follow Paul and not Jesus.
got
So again,
that
we
with
already went through this.
Christianity. What?
No, you didn't get it with
What
Christianity.
system
You
was
got it
used?
with Christians kicking and screaming. The largest denomination of Christians in America were formed to keep their fucking slaves. The Southern Baptist Convention literally formed to keep slaves and to keep Jim Crow laws in place. We had to take slavery from Christians kicking and screaming.
And who was we? It's secular
Northerners.
Were the Northerners Christians?
Not nearly to the same extent as the Southern people were.
So they were Christians, just not as Christian?
Didn't say that at all. What I'm saying is that the general makeup of the Northerners was different from the people in the South, in that there weren't nearly as
So
many
the
Christians,
Christians
and
of the
the
North-
Christians that they had, Michael, in the North were of a different variety. A lot of them were Catholic. And the Catholics don't have a view of the Bible the same way you do. The Catholics lean on church tradition. They believe on what the Pope says. And so the Pope can overrule the Bible if you're Catholic. You're not. I assume you're a Protestant, right?
That's
So
I'm not.
So then, so the only
that's
thing
a-
you have
that's a moral
is the Bible,
progression
and
that's
if you
explained.
use the Bible, that's not progression. That's ignoring what the book says. So the reason why Catholicism
but
can get to a
that's-
point why they have progression is because they've got an authority that is higher than the book. You don't. The only authority you have is the book. And the only authority in the book that you're really going to hold on to is the authority of God, not the authority of Paul, which means the best you can do is either get rid of Jesus's teachings, get rid of God's teachings, and claim to be a heretic, or you can convert to a different sect of Christianity. You become Catholic, you can become Orthodox, you can be whatever you need to say that you no longer adhere to biblical authority.
Understood. Can we go back to the we, when you said that we, and then the we was the Catholics of the North, and that they're the ones that
I did not
got
say that.
rid of
I have no idea where you
slavery?
got that from. What I'm saying is the Northerners were the people that were trying to get rid of slavery. That's why the North and the South were the dividing lines. And the general makeup
they
of
Christian?
Northerners and Southerners were different. The types of people in the North were different demographically than the types of people in the South, which is why there was widespread disagreement as to what the best and moral thing to do. It just happens to be that the North was much more populated by Catholics and I would say deists and other non-Christians, or even Quakers. Quakers are basically universalists. And the South was full of Bible-believing non-Catholics who thought that the Bible is the sole authority.
The Catholics are Christians.
I'm aware, but they don't have the Bible as a sole
No,
authority, and you do.
I'm asking, like, I don't, like maybe, you know, Catholics are defined like not as Christian, but like as something like their own little thing. But yeah, so I was asking, like, Catholics are Christians.
I agree, Catholics are Christians, but they have a different source of authority, which is what I keep telling you. If you're not a Catholic and you aren't, then your only source of authority is the Bible. And the Bible says to follow the law forever.
Not just Christianity and just Christianity, not
right,
necessarily. I don't.
We'll just try to make this easy. All right, I'm going to use a whiteboard and we'll see if we can streamline this. We'll say question. Your name's Michael. So question number 1. Michael is, right? This is going to be a really easy question. Michael is a Protestant, right?
No, I don't know. I don't know what.
Are you a Catholic?
I'll be honest with you.
Are you a Catholic?
No.
Okay. So if you're not a Catholic, you're not a Catholic. Are you Orthodox?
I mean, honest. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out as we go.
Okay, I'll make it easier. I'll write Mike's. All right, well, do this. Mike's sole authority is the Bible. Yes or no?
No.
Oh, interesting. If you're sole authority, then
yes.
If you're, if it's either yes or no. It can't be both. Is your sole authority the Bible? Yes or no?
Are you asking where my morality comes from?
Nope. Your authority, your religious authority. Where does it come from? Does it come from the Bible?
God.
Which is from where? The Bible?
It can be. You know, that's what I'm trying to learn. That's what I'm trying to discover.
Okay, well, it's really easy. If your sole authority for what you think God believes or what God thinks, if it comes from the Bible, you're stuck. You don't have progressive revelation. You don't have progressive morals. You have a Bible that says to follow these laws forever, and then you've got another guy named Paul who said, hey, actually don't follow these laws forever. You just got one contradictory source, and you already told me that you're going to trust Jesus and God rather than Paul, which means you don't have progressive morals, you have stagnant morals that are going to be there literally forever. Now, you could say, no, there's another source of authority. What would be your other source of authority other than the Bible?
It just is God, and I think that morality.
Did God give you divine revelation?
He's not giving me divine revelation.
Did God give any revelation? Did God give any revelation about what laws to follow? Did God give revelation about what laws to follow? Okay, and where do we find those?
They're in the Bible.
They're in the Bible. Okay, so then your only source of authority for morals is is the Bible. You got it.
But I'm
okay.
Not saying that
So what that means is that if the Bible says that it's morally okay, that means you believe that it's morally okay.
No, because I don't think that I think that the story isn't finished. I don't think that. I think that we're still progressing.
Do you think there's going to be a Bible 3.0?
Sure. Why not? Absolutely. I think. I think.
Has it been given?
No, but it could be in the process of its unfolding right now.
Right? Okay, so I'll do this early. So you've got two sources of authority. One is God, and one is the Bible. Now, as it turns out, if we ask about, hey, what are moral commands from the Bible, we're just going to point right back to the Bible. Now, the funny thing is, when we figure out where God's commands are, actually, it turns out they're right back in the Bible. So what that means is that your only source of moral authority is the Bible. That's all you have. So we're right back to where we started, which is that your only source of authority that you can point to is the Bible. And the Bible says that you can own slaves, and the Bible says that you should follow this law code forever. Do you see the nature of the issue here?
Yes, but I don't think that this is addressing that the Catholics, if they're the ones that...
I'm not addressing the Catholics. Slavery. I'm addressing you, Michael. If you were Catholic, then I would have a different... If you were Catholic, I would have a different argument. If you were a Catholic, Michael, I would... Just stop talking. If you were a Catholic, I would have a different conversation with you. You're not Catholic, which means I'm having the conversation that applies to you, not somebody else. When you convert to Catholicism, call back, and I'll be more than happy to talk about moral framework of Catholicism, but you're not one of them.
Well, why can't I just still land the position? I don't
because you're not
understand.
Catholic. We're debating your position. We're debating the position that you hold, not the position that other people hold. I'm more than happy to tell you why Catholicism fails as well, because their sole authority is the Pope, and it's hopelessly contradictory. The Pope contradicts the Bible, the Pope contradicts other popes, which means it's not actually a good source of divine authority because it's contradictory. That's why. Now, I'm going to ask you one last question, because I think we've kind of run the course with the slavery apologetics, and it's a really good question, okay? Now, you believe in progressive morals, which is weird since your book says otherwise. Nevertheless, was there ever, and I'm going to say ever, was there ever a time in which, as punishment for a crime, women should be ripped open with swords and their babies torn out of them?
Like that's shouldn't happen. That seems pretty bad.
It does seem pretty bad, right? Now, would it be okay if God said to do it?
I'll be honest with you, it sounds pretty bad. Yeah,
it's pretty bad, right? Do you know that God uses that punishment for the Samaritans or Sumerians?
I grant you that he flooded he killed everybody. Like what's worse than that, right?
Well, actually, I think this is worse. That. I mean, drowning is pretty bad, but I think taking a sword to pregnant women, ripping open their wombs, taking the babies out, and smashing their heads against rocks, I got to be honest, I think that's worse. I could be wrong.
Well, I just mean I'm a little scale, but I get what you're saying.
Michael, yeah, no, I'm a little perturbed by how long it took you to answer that question. Because like as soon as Justin said it, I was immediately in my head like, no, that's horrible. But you took a solid 10 Mississippi to like answer the question of whether or not it was a good or bad thing to rip fetuses out of women's stomachs and disembowel women. Basically, that's kind of crazy.
You're right. Because you're right. And here's why. Because earlier, when we were talking about slavery and like the weird reasons you could justify slavery, so I was thinking like, because I was thinking about the question, right? Like, I was giving it a thought. Is there a reason? Like, there could be a reason, right? And now, I all right, let's just sit here and try to think about it. Like, what if those babies were, again, what if they were corrupted some kind of way? Like, what if they were,
baby?
what if they were going to kill the mothers? Like, so that's why it took me a second. But then I was like,
why wouldn't God just to make it so that the woman can't get pregnant?
Well, that's what
he did it before.
It took me 10 seconds to.
Yeah.
Say again.
If God is good, he would just make it so that the woman wouldn't get pregnant. He wouldn't make it so that she got pregnant and then commanded to have the baby ripped out of her womb. That's crazy.
Well, I don't think that God being good or bad is the issue. I think it's us being bad, good or bad.
No, God commands it. In Hosea 13:16, he says, Samaria shall bear her guilt because she has rebelled against her God. They shall fall by the sword. Their little ones shall be dashed to pieces and their pregnant women ripped open. They're going to rip open pregnant women. I want to make this as graphic as possible because I don't think people understand how brutal murdering was in the ancient world. When you found babies in war, they still do this on farms today in some countries. They would take babies or pigs.
Right?
They would hold on. Nope. They would take babies
or today.
Hold on. They would take babies, both pre-birth and post-birth, in war, just like they did little pigs. They would take them by the legs. They would find a big rock. They would swing behind their heads and smash the baby's head against the rock, killing the baby. That's how they killed these babies, the ones that weren't cut up by swords. And God says, I'm going to do that to you guys for not properly venerating me. God literally says, because you rebelled against me, because you didn't venerate me properly, I'm going to have your women ripped open and your babies' heads mashed against rocks. There's no time period where that was ever a good thing.
I agree. So then the question that I ask myself is why is this in the Bible? Because there's no way you can look at this and it makes God look good. It makes the religion look good. None of it, like there's no situation where this can be twisted into something good, right? So why is
that's what I'm saying. But Michael, that's the point. John and I have been trying to make this point the whole time, okay? The reason why these laws are here isn't because you have to rationalize them. It's because God was invented. It was invented by a bunch of warlords in the Bronze Age. And they wrote about a God that justified their own horrific behaviors, just like every society did. Every society wrote these law codes, wrote these prophecies, wrote these histories, saying that their God caused it. You can read the same thing in the laws of Hammurabi. You can read the same thing in other law codes. They have preambles. The gods gave us these laws to provide for the land so that there would be law and order in the land, so on and so forth. God told us to go to war because he needed us to subdue these evil people. This God is just as fake as Marduk and Vishnu and every other law, every other god that was ever given in the ancient world. That's why this is in the Bible. It's not because God wants you to wrestle with the weird law code. It's because the God is fiction.
And that is, or he's dealing with people at a point in their history that he has to relate to them where they're at. Because
by murdering their babies? By ripping women open and murdering their babies? It is absurd.
What we're already doing. Because that's
I know, Michael, that's the problem.
Michael.
Right. But if you,
to bring this back around to something we said half an hour ago, 47% of the commandments given by God in the Old Testament are arbitrary as fuck. They don't have any practical application in our lives or anything like that. So you really can't give me this bullshit about how God had to meet people where they were, when he was literally like, hey, you've got to slaughter 2 doves and then sprinkle their blood all around the place. Also dip your pinky toe inside of some more blood, and then that'll make sure you're cleansed of leprosy. Yeah. Like, well, you can't sit there. No. You can't tell me that God had to meet them where they were when he was having them do superfluous bullshit like that.
Yeah. Here's what I think that is an attempt at at what's being done. Is that I think these are early attempts to construct a society, and clearly they went way overboard when they did it, right? And so you have these 614 laws or however many, and they're seeing which ones work, which one doesn't. So, and then they.
Does God have to do that?
They get better.
I'm sorry. No, you just laid out a whole. You just laid out. Hold on. You just laid out a plan where God was workshopping these laws. Does God have to workshop shit?
Yes, with us, yes.
No. Is God omniscient? Does God? Michael, shut the fuck up. Does God know everything? I'm really fucking tired. Does God know everything?
As being, you can say yes.
Okay, yes, he knows everything. He doesn't have to workshop shit, does he? He already knows. He knows what's going to work.
For us to listen.
No, he doesn't.
No.
Just because he
already knows what's going to work.
I know
Michael. If he knows, listen. If he knows if he knows everything, if he has absolute knowledge, he knows what will work. He knows. He doesn't have to workshop shit, right? He knows. And I know people are going to call me out on this in the comments. He knows the cure for cancer, but he doesn't give it to us. He knows, so many different things out there right now. He doesn't have to workshop shit.
Plus, I want to point out too, Michael, that John and I have already responded to this claim 5 times. And here are if you weren't listening, here are the 2 responses. Okay, number 1, God says to follow the laws forever. That's explicit in the text. Deuteronomy 29:29, Deuteronomy 30 verse 6 through 9, Deuteronomy 8:28, Matthew 5:17 through 19. So it's not progressive in the Bible. Your only authority is the Bible. Until you convert to Catholicism and you inherit a pope, you are only stuck with the Bible. You have no other means of knowing what God's laws are. Number 2,
where does the pope?
God, hold on. Number 2, John already said these laws are to distinguish you from the people. Half these laws are superfluous. They're not even necessary. These laws are designed to distinguish you from the other people. They're supposed to make you not like the other people. Leviticus 18:24 says, "Do not defile yourselves in any of these ways, for by all these practices the nations I am casting out before you have defiled themselves. Thus the land became defiled, and I punished it for its iniquity, and the land vomited out in the inhabitants. But you shall keep my statutes and my ordinances, and commit none of these abominations, either the native-born alien or those who reside among you." So God is saying, these people did these abominations. You have to be different. These laws aren't concessions for people to progressively bring them out of shit. These laws are supposed to be better than what the people were already doing, and they're not. They're not better, not even by a small margin.
Right. It's the start of creating that difference for the society to grow from.
It's not for the 2 things that I just told you. There's no progressive laws in the Bible. You have to appeal to something outside of the Bible. Catholics have the Pope. You don't have that. So until you convert to Catholicism, the only authority that you have as a believer is what the Bible says. And the Bible says, according to God and Jesus, that you're going to follow these laws forever. So I'll tell you the same thing I told you an hour ago. Every single time you say something dumb about progressive morals, I'm going to bring you back to what the Bible says. Deuteronomy 30 says, even during the Messianic age, you will follow the laws given to Moses as laid out in the book of Deuteronomy. That's Deuteronomy 30, verses 6 through 8. The Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants, so that you will love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, in order that you may live. Paul and the New Testament says that this is the Messianic age when God will circumcise your heart. It's a spiritual circumcision rather than a physical circumcision. But Deuteronomy 30 continues. It says, then you shall again obey the Lord, observing all of his commandments that I'm commanding you today. So according to God in the Hebrew Bible, when the Messiah comes and they circumcise the hearts of the people, they're still going to follow the laws that God gave to Moses. There's nothing in the Bible when you get to Jesus or God that says anything different. Unless, again, I've been trying to give you the out. Will you please fucking take it?
I'll be a heretic.
All you have to, thank you. All you have to do is say, I'm a heretic. I believe Paul and not God.
Well, I don't believe Paul can be a different type of heretic, not a Pauline.
Do you believe Paul's word or Jesus's word?
Jesus over Paul.
Then you got to follow the laws. Jesus said in Matthew 5 that if you don't follow the laws, you'll be least in the kingdom of heaven. So again, you have to pick between Paul or Jesus. Which is it?
I'll just pick.
So you pick Paul.
No, because you're going to go back and say the thing.
Okay, then if you pick Jesus, if you pick Jesus, you do not have progressive morals. They don't exist. If you pick Jesus as your authority, then your morals are the laws given to Moses that Jesus affirms.
I would like to take what you're saying and look at it and give you a proper and give it a proper look through and answer. The other thing is, it's interesting what you're saying, and I understand. And I understand it, what you're saying. Can I ask, where does the Pope get his authority from?
Well, the Pope, according to Catholicism, gets it directly from God. Now, they do make a delineation. They'll say that not everything the Pope says is authoritative unless it's an official promulgation. If it's an official promulgation, like it's going to become part of the catechism or the magisterium eventually, then they'll say that it would be without error. However, the Pope is allowed in Catholicism to say things that are kind of untrue.
Shit, maybe I'm a Catholic.
Fuck, you might be. Let me know. When you become a Catholic, come on back and we'll have the same discussion, and I'll tell you why Catholicism didn't fix the problem.
Great. Hey, change the title of the show to Converting Catholics. You got me.
Well, you're not going to like that very much because now you have to admit that cannibalism's dope.
Yeah, not only that, but you got to come up with it. You also got to come up with an apologetic about child rape. So have fun with that.
We'll steer clear of that one.
Well, the Holy Spirit gave Mary the shekel shot, so.
Yeah, the God and Mary, God and Gabriel spirit roasted Mary, and you got to come up with a good reason for that. Also, there's the thousands of years of child rape in the Catholic Church. Anyways, we've been up shit creek for a while now. I don't know. I'm kind of done. Are you done there?
I think we've gone over time as well, which is fine. I think I was hopeful that we would make some progress in the discussion. It seems like we might have actually made some progress. So I think now is probably a good time to put a pin in it and say, Michael, we'll be on. John and I are on pretty regularly. Call back sometime when we're up, and we'd love to continue the conversation. Fuck, maybe next time you'll be Catholic and we can have the Catholic conversation.
Yes, sir, no doubt. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, John.
All right, cheers, buddy.
Thank you.
And by be good, I mean whatever you fucking do, don't follow the commands in the Bible. We do have one other. We do have one other caller, another fucking Mike. Thank goodness is an atheist, and is asking, why don't we just concede that there might be a God? Which is kind of an interesting question. But welcome in, Mike. You're on the line with Justin and John. How are you?
I'm doing good. First, I'd like to say that Michael doesn't represent the rest of us, and I wouldn't stab a baby, even if there was a God and he came down and told me to do it. So don't judge all Mikes based on that one.
Certainly wouldn't.
Mostly this is, yes. So mostly this is more I don't believe there's a God. I don't think anybody could prove that there was one, but I find the arguments about, a necessary first mover and all that stuff, just obnoxious and pointless. I would like to get to the point where we get them to admit they believe in the specific God they believe in because of a preference, not because of any evidence.
Yeah. When I was first started streaming, I used to do that. I used to refuse to debate the deist concepts because they're stupid and nobody actually believes in them. I think nowadays it's kind of fun to entertain those conversations anyways, even though the arguments are old and stale. But I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. Some people are okay debating the nonsense God concepts, and some people aren't.
Well, yeah, and I actually think both of you generally do a really good job of moving on to the specifics of the religion. I only called in because at the time you had no callers, and then I wanted to defend my name from that schmuck who just was talking, so that's why I stayed on the line. So that was pretty much
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, hope you're doing well, buddy.
I am.
Sorry, Jolly.
I love the show, and I love all the line stuff.
Yeah, well, so I guess I took the statement a little bit differently, maybe because I consider myself an agnostic atheist, right? So I feel like I already am like, yeah, sure, a God could exist. What evidence do you have for the God? But of course, the evidence that you would have for the God, it would ultimately depend on a specific definition of a God, and so then you kind of move forward from there. So, I mean, I guess I always go into a conversation, at least admitting, like, yeah, sure, there's a chance God could exist. Like, yeah, if you can define one. Of course, like Justin was saying, the deistic version of God is kind of unfalsifiable, so you really can't go anywhere with it, right? And so it kind of forces them to further define it. And it's, when they start to further define their God, even if it's just a little bit more than the deistic God, they end up, start burying themselves pretty quick in issues. So, yeah, that's how I took the statement at first.
No, and I agree to an extent, but mostly when they start defending their specific version of God, whether it's, the Christian God, the Muslim God, the Buddhist God, or whatever it is, they almost always get to the same thing. Well, there's these miracles or this, I had this experience and stuff, but then they have to defend that every other religion has those experiences, and it always comes down to, well, I like this one because I like this one. Well, I don't give a shit that you like it. Prove it's real.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my suggestion is if you're in a conversation with somebody like that and you don't find any benefit in discussing, the more philosophical side of the argument, I mean, just fast track the argument to that point. I mean, you're in control of the conversation. You can fast track it to anywhere. I mean, I'm with Justin. I think that it's interesting to entertain those as long as they're not going to filbro and just sort of, stroke their ego. As long as they're not trying to do that, then I'm fine interacting on that level. But if you don't really want to fuck around with that, then don't, is what I would say.
Sounds good. Well, you guys have a good night, and thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers,
thank you for calling in, Mike.
Yep. Bye.
All right, friends. Well, big W for the nice Mike, the rational Mike. Yeah. We've got quite a few super chats here tonight, friends. We're going to read all the super chats, $5 and over. We really appreciate everyone being here, hanging out with us late tonight. It's a little bit later than our typical curfew. We were lucky that the mods and whatnot were able to stay late with us. And big W to Lux for staying out late with it. I don't know what the time is in your time zone, but big thank you to everybody involved. And I don't know, anything else we want to add before we read supers, buddy?
No, I mean, other than everybody should check out rocketcityreason.com if you want to come to a cool new conference that's going to be starting up this year. It's October 23rd through 25th. We've got a lot of great speakers that are going to be there. I know Justin's going to try to come. We've got confirmation from Pinkbeard. I don't know if anybody knows Pinkbeard, but Pinkbeard's going to be there. Yeah, and Mama Bash is also gonna be there as well. So we've got a lot of great people that are gonna be there this year. So definitely go to rocketcityreason.com and check that out.
That's why I didn't realize Bash and Mama were gonna be there. Now if I don't go, I'll get extreme FOMO. This is gonna be wild. Okay. All right, fantastic. Well, let's grab some super chats, friends. I believe our first one is from Side 913.
I'll get him on the screen in a second. Sorry, I had to go to the bathroom.
Okay, yeah.
Just worst time, apparently.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, it happens. Don't worry. It's always difficult to time everything up when you've got just a couple people kind of running everything. In fact, I think it's just me, John, and Lux right now, if I'm recalling this correctly. But Thank you, Side, for the $5. It says Happy Atheist Day, everyone. And I gotta be honest, I didn't even know it was Atheist Day. So happy Atheist to all y'all.
Yep. And then next month in April, there's going to be an Ask an Atheist Day. So I'll be sure to shoot you a message for that one.
Sure thing, yeah.
Let's see, 1999 from Balthazar. If there were any answers in Genesis, wouldn't they have moved on to answers in Exodus by now? Well, yeah. So answers in Genesis is primarily just trying to do the creationism thing. So yeah, I totally agree. The answers in Exodus, though, are always slavery.
Every single time. And $5 from Elishana Silverbow says, if I could have any job, it would be cleaning mirrors. Yep. I could really see myself doing that. And that's something you get it, my friend. You get it. Thank you for that.
I would love to see Justin and Erica do a show together just because you apparently like puns and Erica fucking hates them.
I would drive her crazy. She would lose her mind streaming with me. I'm so sorry, Erica, for when the day comes, but I love puns. I can't help but to be punny.
$9.99 from Hannah Hodgins saying, I hope no anti-vax people come on today. I just got the flu again, and last time I was almost hospitalized. Get your vaccine, people, please. It will save a life. Definitely. I don't think that I've had my vaccine this year. I need to get mine, actually.
Also, wear absolutely. A goddamn mask.
Yeah.
Well, we don't give medical advice. Please get your vaccine. Allegedly, it's very, very good for you. And as someone who has worked in the industry, I can only agree with that. Allegedly. $9.99 from Hannah Hodgkins. Again, thank you, friend. Says, been gone for a while, popping back in. Had a ton of crap going on in my life and dealing with my sister possibly being deployed to Iran. Holy shit. Happy to be back. Well, we're sorry to hear that your sister might be deployed. That is terrifying. And another good reason why we need to motivate people to vote against this horrible Christo-fascism. Christian nationalism is not good.
Yeah. $5 from Space Barbarian who says, hey, Andrew, secular ethics for dummies is thinking about the consequences of your actions. Yeah.
True. Yes. That's actually a really good way to summarize it. I like that. And $5 from Hank. Good to see you, Hank. Says, y'all need to start charging Omni Dumbass Andrew for access to this platform. Minimum $2 per minute with a maximum of 10 minutes. Enough already. I know. You know, it's funny when I saw him come up, I was like, oh no, please let there be somebody else in queue. And there wasn't. One of the struggles we have is there's only so many people that are dumb enough to call in to debate these topics. And so sometimes you're stuck debating the same dumb person over and over again. It's just one of the curses of doing this type of work.
Yeah. I have to say, too, I have no idea why he's unbanned. I don't know if that's a call-in studio glitch or if Jimmy decided to unban some of our, cringest callers or something. But I just saw him show up in the queue and was like, okay, you had 3 months of reprieve, you guys. Chill out.
Andrew's the gift that keeps on giving. We get sound clips and bites every time he's on because he'll say the worst stuff on the planet.
Yep. $9.99 from Hannah Hodgins. Andrew could be going out and making the world better and helping humans. Instead, he sits and wastes his life defending indefensible things. It's a shame, really. Yeah,
it really is.
I fear for people in his life, and I think that his hard drive needs to be searched.
100%. There's somebody in that basement. And $9.99 from Darth Willow says the biblical answer to the trolley question would be everyone on the track unless you haggle. And if you don't, then you're on the track too. Actually, that's true. Yes. The biblical answer to the trolley problem is I'll kill everybody. Doesn't matter who it is.
$4.99 from Safco Disp saying, I'm begging y'all to kick and ban Andrew, even if there's no callers. They'd rather hear us talk about how arbitrary God's laws are than to hear from Andrew.
It's true. It's kind of a double-edged sword. So I would say this for followers of the line or any of our channels. A good portion of the revenue on these channels comes from being able to clip an episode and post it. And then people watch it and you get the advertising revenue. If we don't have callers that we can clip and post, we lose a huge portion of revenue for the channel. And the only way to make up for that is probably via super chats. So if you really want to get people like Andrew off here, we need to like quadruple the amount of super chats. So then John and I can afford to just sit here and talk with each other as opposed to actually clipping videos. So it's one of those double-edged sword that we're, all of our channels are wrestling with. But $10 from the Eagle fan says, I apologize on behalf of New Jersey for Andrew. Please ban that troll. His call serves no purpose. We apologize that you had to listen through Andrew. It is one of those things. And thank you for supporting the show, Eagle.
Yeah, I would like to add to that just that, like, the stream audience is only one portion of our total audience, and the total audience of our channel likes to watch dumb fucking calls, so.
True.
Yeah.
True.
$10 from Chris Windham. Does Fiddler on the Roof accurately portray how silly following the Hebrew Bible can make you? May Doug send you many blessings, the rock of our security.
I would say this, and some people are going to complain, and I apologize ahead of time. It's my fault. I've not watched it. I'm not good at watching movies or musicals or plays. I am like functionally illiterate when it comes to any like social thing. Just assume that everything I know is either wrapped up in electricity or the Bible.
I think this is your turn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we just read that. We had 2 in a row from Chris. I apologize. Thank you, Chris. If you've ever seen the movie Frailty, then it should remind you of the "Would you stab them in the chest" collar. Hell, Doug. In detail, Doug. I apologize. I haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
Oh, you haven't?
No, I've not seen anything.
It's all about divine command theory. Actually, yeah.
I would like to see that then. Okay.
$5 from Actual T, who says, please remove the labels from your chalice, Justin.
I did it during the calls, friends. This is my first time actually getting to use it. This is the debut of my Kraken communion chalice. It got a Kraken on the actual front of it. And so I can enjoy some Kraken while taking the communion of Doug. And 5 from Dusk Frame says, if it's ever proved that God is real, I will make it my mission to defeat him and take his place. Dusk, I'm in agreement with you. If this like nasty barbaric god actually exists, I can only assume that some other god exists as well, and we can probably take them.
$5 from C. Gray, who says, Michael has been the king of recycled dead endpoints tonight. He kept going to the same place over and over. How did you make it an hour? GJ. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he was a bit more like in his cycle, right? Throughout the arguments, he was a lot more long-winded than a first caller who was just basically boom. Like we were getting whiplash from how fast he was getting back to it.
True. And 5 from Joshua Everett. Good to see you, friend. So Justin, SkepTalk routinely goes to 2 a.m. Also, I love Pinkbeard. Oh, that's right. Especially when Erica and Forrest are on, those 2 will go late. Yeah, that's fair. I actually forgot about that. I've had a couple late Monday episodes on my own channel where I got done. I'm like, these 2 are still going. So fair point, Joshua. Fair point.
Yeah, we basically just plan to do that once a month now.
$5 from SJL, who says puns are okay, but my sense of humor is more snarktastic.
I get it. Well, the soul of humor is wit, I've heard. And 5 from STomp 10 says, this was a banger of a show. Imagine if Andrew and Tim had a convo with each other. Tim is another D-bag caller, by the way. Yeah, I've heard some Tim stuff. And I think Kevin. If we get Tim, Kevin, and Andrew in a room, it might implode.
Is that Tim from New York? Because I remember the last time I interacted. Yeah. When I had Barr on Black Atheist Rants, he was trying to convince us that Christianity didn't perpetuate the transatlantic slave trade. And at the very end of the show, he just reverts to what he initially called in about. And I'm just like, thanks for fucking wasting our time. I lost my shit on him.
And I believe it's 5 from Levin. Is this mine or yours? Legendary Legend?
I think it might be mine. $5 Narnia from Legendary Legend 75, who says morality is subjective, but God is evil is illogical. You don't even believe in inherent right and wrong.
I think I see what you're saying, but neither one of us are claiming objective morals. And that's actually the point that we've proven, is that God being evil is a logical point. So we're not saying that it's objective morals that we're judging God by, because there are no objective morals. What we are saying is that the morals of God are illogical for the reasons that we laid out during the stream. Again, none of us are saying, at least John and I are not saying, that it's God is objectively like immoral, because there's no objective moral law code. What I would say is that God's moral law code is illogical because it does the harm that it claims that it doesn't want to produce. Like what's the word I'm looking for? It works against itself. The God of the Bible claims that it wants life, claims that it wants fullness and abundance for humans, but then we have these law codes that are self-contradictory to that purpose. Therefore, it's illogical. Oh, that's it.
All right.
Fucking A. All right, let's do it. Friends, thank you so much for being here. John, I had a blast as always. And where can people go to get more information about Rocket City Reason if they want to attend? Because I want to see everyone there.
Yeah, so everybody can go to rocketcityreason.com. There's a schedule there. There's a rundown of everything that we're doing that day. We've got our MCs listed. We've got our keynote speakers listed, which, in case y'all are wondering, we do have both Forrest and Erica that are going to be on the stage at the exact same time having a good conversation about science. So we've got a lot of great stuff going on there. We've even got a drag show on Friday night. We've got an Alabama barbecue, and we're going to be doing a special tour of the Space and Rocket Center on Sunday. So it's going to be a great time. I hope everybody can come and see.
And then also remember, friends, while we're ending tonight, there are shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday still coming up. In fact, I believe tomorrow is going to be Alyssa and Taylor, and then I'm on Wednesday night with Matt. So Matt and I are going to be hosting Wednesday night, and then Thursday we're going to have Ben and Riverbolt Jack. So please make sure to tune in to the other shows and show your support, friends. Until next time, have a good one. Be godless.
All right,
Make sure to check out the patreon.com/call the line.
Yeah. Thanks to all the mods. Thanks to Lux for producing. Thanks to Stephanie for doing the call-in screening there at the beginning. Thanks everybody for making the show awesome tonight.